'Cause you're listening to Jams and Tea. You won't see the show on your TV, so we talk about things musically. 'Cause you're listening to Jams and Tea. You're listening to Jams and Tea.
Shall we begin?
Konnichiwa, gamers. Welcome to the Jams and Tea podcast.
Hello.
Oh, God.
Konnichiwa Gamers is my favorite introduction we have done.
Kawaii.
Welcome to
Ready to go?
Jams and Tea podcast, where we spin the jams and spill the tea. And today we're here with a special B-sides episode examining the discography of the beloved and what's the word for when they've done a lot of albums? Prolific punk band.
Prolific?
I mean, are they prolific?
I think they're prolific.
If you've got more than 5 albums, you're prolific.
No, but it's about like in a short, like King Gizzard are prolific. Like
I don't know if it's time sensitive, but who cares anyway? They make lots of albums.
King Gizzard has crossed over from prolific into like omnipotent. Just everywhere.
That's true.
All right,
We can only hope that Against Me becomes omnipotent.
Against Me, Florida punk band. I describe, they've been my favorite band for a good few years now. I remember when I was 18 and I read this book. I'm not going to say the name of it on air because it's a slur. But it kind of helped me realize that I was trans, and that's great. And I read this at the same time as reading Ready Player One, and this is so much better. Anyway.
Well, I mean, like, looking at my left ass cheek would be nicer than reading Ready Player One.
Yes, right now I am going through Ingmar Bergman's filmography, and at the same time I am also going through Brett Ratner's.
Yeah, so...
so you might want to mention that was written by Laura Jane Grace, who is the front woman of the band.
Grace. With Dan Ozzie. It was written in between Transgender, Dysphoria Blues and Shapeshift with Me. Yeah, I was introduced to Against Me by a guy in the university I was at before I dropped out and changed course, who was a big alternative music guy, but mainly a big like folk punk guy. Sort of helped me get into the genre, introduced me to Pat the Bunny. Against Me really started in the folk punk scene, although I don't think it would be reasonable to call anything they made post their second album a folk punk album.
No, not at all.
You can break their career up into, I think, like 4 solid chapters. You have the folk punk chapter, you have the Fat Records chapter, you have the Butch Vig chapter, and then you have the post coming out chapter, if that makes sense. And those are 4 very, I think, sonically distinct periods of their work as well, both in theme and aesthetic. They start in the year 2000 with a self-titled EP. I tracked down the version of Walking is Still Honest they did on that, and it's like, God, I know funk punk is meant to be rough, but Jesus, did you have to record it on a potato? Is my question.
Some 80s black metal recording shit.
The answer is yes, or you're a sellout.
You would say that, but I think there are sections of the like OG Against Me fan base who might agree with you, and we're going to come back to this.
That's a joke that is based wholly in reality.
Given the reaction to certain Against Me records, it is very accurate to assume that the punk fans latched onto this band and then didn't as their career ventured forth.
Yeah, it basically post Eternal Cowboy onwards, people started to hate Against Me. And that's the thing about, like, I can think of one really great folk punk record in the last like 3 years, maybe 4.
Frank
and
Turner's
I think
Be More
that's
Kind.
No.
And that is a joke based in the opposite of reality.
Yeah. And I think it's just because like a lot of people just stop making music because the folk punk fan base, as much as I love the genre, they're super fucking elitist and annoying. Basically, as soon as Against Me started using electric guitars for most of their songs, and signed to not a major label, but a label owned by
Yeah.
Fat Mike of NOFX, people started having problems.
Mm-hmm.
It's still difficult to wrap my head around the fact that people got angry that they joined a label led by the guy from NoFX. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
really?
Anyway, same year they produced Crime EP on actual microphones. Famously, they didn't use any cymbals on this record. Like Laura, in the book, Laura says that she said to the drummer, 'cause it was just two people at this point, like, look, wouldn't it be fucking amazing if we were the only band in town not using cymbals in our drum kit? And you can hear this in their version of I Still Love You, Julie, where it sounds like the hi-hats are just like hitting a table, like. Anyway, then they did the acoustic EP, which you think would come out after Axl Rose because it's acoustic versions of most of the songs on it, but it came out several months beforehand. And you get renditions of songs like Jordan's First Choice, Anarcho-Punk So Mysterious, Reinventing Axl Rose, and Pints of Guinness. You also get two bonus songs, one called We Did It All for Don, which is one of the best songs I've ever recorded. And the
If you're a
track,
fan
I've had
of
it.
this band, track this EP down because it's totally worth listening to, and it's great.
I know I will.
Yeah, and I've had the untitled bonus track stuck in my head all day. Yeah, and so
That's
after
terrific.
that, we get their first full-length, well, not studio, their full-length record. Against Me is Reinventing Axl Rose. We get Axl Rose on the cover. Laura was a huge metalhead in her teens. She had a military school father, so you can understand why she went in this direction.
Definitely.
Yeah. Starts off with the song Pints of Guinness Make You Strong, which Laura has this wonderful line about that she wrote it about her grandparents, one of whom was called James. But now she sings it to her daughter every time she plays it because she's not going to be coming home tonight, you know? And I think that is astonishingly beautiful. So basically played it at every gig they did since they started playing music under the title of Against Me. I just think that transition is gorgeous. This is probably the last time you could say they made a folk punk record. I love many of these songs as some of the best they've ever done. There are also some others I don't love as much. Songs like Jordan's First Choice, I like the other renditions so I can make out what's being said. Politics of Starving is like fine. And I think The Walking is Still Honest had been done better on previous versions. That being said, Pints of Guinness Make You Strong, astonishingly great song. We Laugh at Danger and Break All the Rules. Against Me are good at titles like that. I can't hear it and not scream the whole song. Just all the way through. It's an automatic, instinctive response. This is also probably the last time they were really hardcore set in being an anarchist band, although the ideas do keep coming up again and again.
That was being familiar with this particular record for a while. That was something that surprised me about their later records, is that there's obviously still a political element to all of them to a lesser or greater extent, but there's more kind of reflection on it seems as though to an extent Laura gets a little more politically jaded in some of the later
records. Absolutely. And that's some of the things I like about no, absolutely. Then again, on a song like Those Narco-Punks Are So Mysterious, you find Against Me very intentionally bursting the bubble of being a person like this being cool, about punk being cool, which, if you ask me, is the most punk thing you can do, is sort of look at this and say, you're not any better than anyone else being like this. There are some very pointed satirical lines on Those Anarcho-Punks Are So Mysterious. I don't have any of them written down, but they're there. Sort of the critique of how people can sort of destroy themselves in pursuit of this greater thing as well. I cannot remember a single thing about Scream Until You're Coughing Up Blood. Sorry, lads. The title track is also pretty good, but again, I think I prefer previous renditions in previous things. I think it's interesting that Baby I'm an Anarchist is one track separated from 8 Full Hours of Sleep, because they have almost the same chord progression played exactly the same way. They clearly cued Walking Stillness to go there so that you didn't just feel like you were listening to the same song again. That being said, Baby I'm an Anarchist and 8 Full Hours of Sleep are some of the best songs I've ever recorded, in my opinion.
Yep.
Baby I'm an Anarchist, it's a love song, it's a breakup song, but it's also a political satire. It's really funny, it's really angry, it is really jaded. It's also very romantic. The line where she's like, when it came time to throw bricks through that Starbucks window, you left me all alone, all alone.
That's a very funny line. Yeah, I love that line.
And I love in live versions between the chorus and the verse, James goes 2, 3, 4, baby. It's just amazing. I love that. And 8 Full Hours of Sleep is just, I love the song on so many levels. It really, it simultaneously puts you in the position of wanting this like anarchist dream, but also understanding that it is an idealistic dream at the same time, which is really fucking hard to do. But I'm glad they did it. They basically showed to you that this is something that you dream of when you're asleep. It is the epitome, the ideal. But at the same time, the inclusion of a romantic subplot in this song shows that this is a simultaneously like a romanticized thing, where she says, when you sleep, she's standing there with open arms, and one night could last forever if you asked her. So you see, that's just a very brief covering of why that song's great, but I think it covers the bases pretty well. I wrote down in my notes that it's against me's Imagine.
I can see that.
Also a better song, but
makes sense. Imagine's a bad song, but that's a conversation for another day.
I love the drony bass sound that starts. It's probably the single electric sound on the album, or rather, like, and I love the xylophones you get in this. It's such a it's a pretty brave choice to do on a folk punk record, is to include these instruments, but it just works. And this starts against me's tradition of, even on their worst records, doing fucking amazing closing tracks.
Gonna say the same thing. I was gonna say the same thing.
Yep.
There's a couple of closers. There's a couple of closers
album.
I'm not that huge on, but like for the most part, their closers are always like amazing.
Depending on what those closers are, Tyler, I will fly to New Zealand and kill you.
If it's Bamboo Bones, I'm gonna end your life.
And I will come with Morgan.
You'll just have to wait and see.
Like even on New Wave, you get the ocean. Like just. I'll talk more about the ocean when we get to it. Anyway, if anyone else wants to leap on this song, please go ahead.
Well, I'll just leap
on this record. Sorry.
I'll just leave on it real quick. I don't have a lot of insightful things to say because you've kind of basically stolen all of them. Basically,
I'm really sorry.
In terms of the meanings of the songs, no, I would expect that. But yeah, it's a fantastic record. I love it. I love it to bits. I love the folk punk elements of it. It's an incredibly declarative and energized and inspired first album. I like I really enjoy the fusion of the folk stylings with the punk aesthetic. I like the way that it's laid out really nicely on the opening track. I like the fact that there are at least a handful of songs here that you could label anarchist mission statements. The politics of starving being a one I really love that hasn't been mentioned so far. I love the way that the use of backing vocals on this record really throughout a lot of the tracks really elevates that sense of camaraderie, that sense of belonging, and that sense of unity in terms of the anarchist struggle. It just makes the record really more tangibly emotional and easy to connect to. I think We Laugh at Danger and Break All the Rules is easily the best song on the album, which is saying something because I think there are a lot of really great songs on the album, as I've said. I love that that is ostensibly an ode to touring and the expression of their art as a punk band as a form of revolution. I love
there's a recurring theme in their music, I think, and it's part of what I love about both folk music and punk music is you get a lot of songs about being in a band and making music. Yeah,
which this notion as well, I'm going to bring this up later, this notion of like the meta aspect of the songwriting. So when Laura's writing about the band and being in the band, has it. It's mixed for me. Like sometimes it really works, and sometimes it results in songs I don't particularly care for. But here it's really, really, really powerful and affecting. I love the anthemic chorus on this song. I love the fake out group vocal ending. It's just a perfect song. Yeah, I really don't think like it's not a perfect album, but it's very great. Like it goes on full cylinders from start to finish in a way that not all of their records do. I love it to bits. I don't really have much else to add. I just really love this album a lot.
That's good shit. Good shit.
Yeah, I don't really have much beyond that either. This is just one of the best debut albums across any genre ever. It's consistently excellent in pretty much every aspect, from musicianship to lyrics, which the lyrics on this album I think are astounding from pretty much any perspective. It mixes the sort of like hardline anarchist political beliefs with the sort of romance and poetry that a lot of that kind of brews up in you. It just translates the emotions spectacularly.
Yeah, it's very, very much a young person's album in a sense.
Yeah.
Like
but it has only gotten better as I've gotten older, though, which I think is interesting as well.
I think that is interesting. Yeah,
it becomes more insightful, I think, and part of that I'm sure is nostalgia as well, kind of bleeding into it, because there is a certain wistfulness to it that's like
totally
like it just reminds you of being younger and more fiery, you know.
As Saoirse's already mentioned, that self-awareness that crops up throughout the album but punctuates 8 full hours of sleep really nicely. I think that kind of element is what really elevates it. Like what really makes this record something special is that it's not two-dimensional. There's a lot of kind of depth and self-awareness and intelligence in the songwriting as well. It's not just pure balls to the wall, rocking for the
absolutely.
It's it's meaningful.
I think the songs that perhaps best highlight this are the previously mentioned Baby I'm an Anarchist and 8 Full Hours of Sleep, which I actually really love the fact that they're just made up of the same chords and chord progressions. It makes them feel like the high and then the come down, especially now that 8 Full Hours of Sleep is the last track on the album. It's like Baby I'm an Anarchist gets swept up in the romanticism of it, and you're like ready to take on the state by the end of that song. And 8 Full Hours of Sleep is just kind of acknowledgement of the fact that it's kind of a pipe dream, but you can still, fight for what's right, even if your idealism, isn't quite what you thought it to be. And I think that's essentially the narrative arc of the album as a whole and what makes it so powerful. And musically, while the production is, lo-fi and ragged, I guess, I think it suits the material very well, except for On Pints of Guinness Make You Strong, which is a fantastic song that is kind of held back by some production choices that I find a little confusing. Like, if it's probably the only fully electric guitar song on the album, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But the choice to make it clean, the guitar tones clean, is just always baffled me, especially since in pretty much every live version after that they have used distorted guitars. So I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah, I mean, Laura has spoken to that decision. I mean, especially after they really transitioned into an electric sound on the next album. Laura basically said that she didn't want you to come to live gigs and just hear the album again. So she wanted to change up how some of the songs sound and make them more like a song that would get you pumped up in a live setting.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think that's. I just feel like that feeling was translated so well on the rest of the album, because as Jake said earlier, it's like 2 steps away from being a live album in certain parts. I don't know. I just think it would have captured the energy a lot better if some of the production choices were different. But still a fantastic song, still one of their best, still one of the best on the album. Great album. I like it a lot. That's the end of my spiel.
Jake, do you have
What do
anything you want to
you
add?
think, Jake? As if I don't know what Jake thinks. What do you think, Jake?
Well, I mean, in terms of like uniform opinions, I can only back what you three have said so far, and that I think this is a fantastic record. I did take some notes for each of the albums because I just, I went through their catalog again today to just sort of make sure that I was up to date on what I thought about them, just because this is a band where I think, Morgan kind of mentioned that, the songs get better as you get older. And I think that the way this band works is that with time, everything kind of transforms a little bit for you, not necessarily in what you think quality wise, but your relationship with the music. And I have that, like, Axl Rose is an album that has the feeling of being at a bar where everyone is drunkenly singing along to the tunes of whatever guitar player is there that evening, and you're all just having a great time. And I really like the guitar tones on the album. They just have a really satisfying twang to them. I love, there's also just sort of splices of audio and like the sound of like people conversing or like before or after a song and laughing. And it just adds to that feeling that Tyler touched on of communal participation that this album feels like it is. I don't know. Whenever I listen to Axl Rose, it is an album that feels like it is happening right there in front of me. And I think Tyler touched on that really well. I think Laura's vocal performances they're consistently harsh and shouty and always impassioned. Like, there is just nowhere else she would rather be other than on the stage at which she is performing these songs, which makes the slightly quieter moments more effective than the loud moments, I think. And it also just is a testament to her as a front woman that, like, she is just so, like, even at this band's worst bottom tier moments, it is
Are you
never
about to say a song title that they have in their back catalog?
But no, but I was about to say that it is never a question of delivery because she is always going 100% into it. And I love whenever like the group or gang vocals show up on this, because it feels like you just like, I'll stand there listening to this and I'll just like I'll be encouraged to stand up and shout along with them. It's anthemic.
Because it's us
And
against
the clapping too is just fucking perfect. And as Morgan said, I think the production on this album, as unkempt and ragged as it is perfect. I really, with the actual, I do find myself agreeing with the points made about Pints of Guinness Make You Strong, even though I do love that song. I also think the song structures for like, it's important we note, this album and a lot of Against Me's albums are short. Like, this is under a half an hour. And this is an album that I still think has really dynamic song structures, and sometimes not a song structure at all. It'll just kind of be a minute and a half long stretch of music. And that's fine because it segues beautifully between one piece of music to the next.
Absolutely.
It's diverse. It doesn't outstay its welcome. And I think it's a beautiful, definitive statement from the band. It is it's a strong debut. It's full of personality and color, and as basic as it is in some areas, it's like a perfect starting point for this band to build off of, but also like just cements them as a voice that they need to be listened to in the folk punk scene, or just the punk scene.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love this album.
I think it's really a compliment to the band that a lot of people have said that there are songs like Pints and Walking that we think are better on other renditions they've done on other recordings. But the songwriting always still really comes through from the group.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. I just want to sort of wrap up by saying that I think the line on this record that best sort of shows the vibe is on Baby I'm an Anarchist, and it's the line, we're all hypocrites, but you're a patriot.
Yeah, that line really stuck out to me when I was listening to it. Yeah.
Because the thesis of the album is almost like, we are all human beings who are just trying, but at least we try.
Yeah.
Yep.
A prevailing theme throughout their discography that I love to see.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, shall we move into our favorite tracks and ratings?
Favorite and least favorite?
Yeah. Which order are we going in here?
We'll just do the normal order, shall we?
Oh,
yeah, Johnson T.
All right.
Johnson T.
My 3 favorite songs, and these are in order as best as I can figure, because look, all these albums, with one glaring exception, have many great songs, and it is very difficult to order them into preference. But at number 3, I have Baby I'm an Anarchist. At 2, I have Pints of Guinness Make You Strong. And at 1, I have Those Anarcho-Punks Are Mysterious. My least favorite is, I'll echo Saoirse's sentiment and say that it's Jordan's First Choice. I do prefer the other version of that song that exists, but as is, it is just easily the weakest song on there for me. And as a whole, this album gets a very emphatic 8 out of 10 from me.
Absolutely.
Very good.
My 3 favorite tracks are Baby I'm an Anarchist, Pints of Guinness Make You Strong, interestingly enough.
Same 2 and 3. Yeah.
It's just, it's such a disgustingly good song. It's a little irritating that I have to dock points. And 8 full hours of sleep. And least favorite of mine is also Jordan's First Choice. I haven't heard this other version that you all are talking about, but it's just immediately the only weak spot in the album.
I think it's on the acoustic EP. In fact, I wrote down the track list so I can tell you. Yes, it is.
Word. I will look into that then.
Yeah.
And
what's your rating, Morgan?
It is getting a strong 9 out of 10 from me.
Strong.
Alright, so my 3 favorite tracks are Pints of Guinness Make You Strong, We Love the Danger, and We Break All the Rules. If Florida takes us, then we're taking everyone down with us. And also 8 full hours of sleep. And my least favorite track is actually Scream Until You're Coughing Up Blood. Laura did a secret playthrough of the whole of Axl Rose and then the Disco Before the Breakdown EP, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And when she got to this song, she was like, this is the closest against me I've ever done to playing a ska song. And it's going to be the last time it's ever played live. And noticing how no one's booing.
Yeah.
I don't mind that song. I don't think it's top tier, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there too.
Your rating, Saoirse?
My rating... Hang on. Got that fucker. Right. Had a mosquito buzzing around my room. I do not want you to suck my blood, fucker. 8.
8. Very good. Okay, so my 3 favorite tracks are We Laugh at Danger and Break All the Rules, Baby I'm an Anarchist, and The Politics of Starving. Least favorite track, if I had to pick one, would be Jordan's First Choice as well, but it's really like the only choice. There's so much consistency on this record. I am going to give the album 9 out of 10.
Oh,
yeah.
8.5 average. That's good.
Someone call Fellini.
And I believe, again, I'm not trying to... You motherfucker. I'm not trying to spoil anything, but is this anyone's favorite Against Me album? Because I don't think it is.
It is not mine.
It's
not mine.
Close. Not mine.
That's interesting. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
We have such a high average, and it's no one's favorite.
No, absolutely.
That's why this band's good. Yeah, good band.
So,
all right.
The same year this came out, Against Me released what is listed as a single, but it's really an EP. Called The Disco Before the Breakdown. I can only assume it was songs that didn't make it on the full record because they've done this 2 more times. But I don't understand because they're really good. The title track is the only Against Me song I found with a sax solo on it, and it's a killer sax solo. There's a line on it where Laura says, "We know they're going to laugh at us when they see us holding hands like this." And in the book, Laura says that that line was written to the idealized version of the woman she wanted to be. And that just kind of breaks my fucking heart.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, you can see that the book, it doesn't pull any punches. I recommend it.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
And there's another song on it called Tonight We're Going to Give It 35%. That's also really good. And then we move on to Against Me as the Eternal Cowboy. They signed to Fat Records, which is Fat Mike of NoFX's label. This angered a lot of people because it's a punk label and not a folk punk label, and it's arguably a pop punk label. I say to these people, fuck you. But Laura responded.
No problems detected here.
Yeah, like fucking,
Yeah, he's like, does the music sound good? Yes. Let's move on.
Does Against
Anarchists
Me
are
are is
precious.
pop punk band?
But Laura's response
that was
to
good.
this, and this, I'm paraphrasing the book here. Laura's response to this was to make it the most electric guitar rock heavy thing she had done at that point, which I love. Basically,
the irony.
I do think that approach though does make the record slightly worse in my opinion, because although I love loads of the rock songs on this album, don't get me wrong, I think it does lead to a lot of songs where I feel like that was like the only real artistic, stylistic intent there. And it means that a lot of the songs really blend together for me. I'm talking Mutiny on the electronic bass, Slowing the Rhythms, Rice and Bread, Brief Yet Triumphant Intermission, which I like all those songs, but they blend together. They're not special to me. That being said, TSR, standing for This Shit Rules, is a wonderful intro. And it brings you roaring into it from a pretty laid back start to a roaring second half, leading you straight into Cliché Guevara. Amazing title, but it is one of my favorite Against Me songs.
Great song.
Good song. Good song.
Yeah. Whenever I want to just have a great time, I will go to the office and just bang it out on guitar. Whenever I just want to have a good time. It's a wonderful song about what it means to be a punk and what that philosophy is. So we've got lines like machine guns and audible voices. There's a lot of things that should be said, so we're playing six strings. We want to turn gunshots and mortar blasts into a metaphor of how we're all the same. This song does one of the things that I think Against Me does best consistently in their career, which is taking pretty nuanced ideas, pretty big and nuanced ideas, and packing them into really catchy hooks, which is a very hard thing to do, but they do it consistently and all the time. Now we've got Sink Florida Sink after Mutiny on the Electronic Bay, which is heartbreaking.
Longest woe boy ever.
And we sink and we drown, and what is lost can never be found.
This is the most relatably awesome thing about Against Me's music is their continued hatred of Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. Laura said of the song Miami that it's not specifically a dig at Miami. But it's just using the fact that Miami is a shithole as a metaphor for the fact that everything is shit. His arms did swim until his lungs caved in, and panic was lost in a deep understanding that you will see what is wrong with you and me. What's wrong with everything? Anyway, Unsubstantiated Rumors are good enough for me. It's a great song as well.
With some hashtag relatable content just there.
Yeah, really.
It got real.
Breaking down and rattling off Against Me lyrics.
Yeah, absolutely. Unsubstantiated Rumors, it starts from it's a pretty acoustic position, but it becomes like a punk rager. It's unsettling, it wrong fits you, and it breaks into a major chord progression in a very cool way that in a way that I kind of miss about Against Me's music. In a way, they don't really do it so much anymore. That a lot of from these first three records, a lot of their songs feel like they're just spewing out from someone's open chest. There's no structure, there's no planning. It's just vomiting out. And,
an improvisational quality almost.
Yeah. In a way, I said about Run the Jewels' music on this podcast, and it's something another critic said about the Front Bottoms. We're going to get to that when we talk about them in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I love that about these early songs, and I love their more structured stuff. And I do kind of wish they did more songs like that now. I think it's probably Butch Vig's influence on the songwriting, to be honest, but that's just me. Yeah, and turn those clapping hands into angry ball fists. The first Against Me song to get a music video, which is weird because it's a weird song.
Yeah, I was gonna say how'd that work?
Considerably the longest on the album, I believe, like by some margin.
Yeah, 4 minutes. I think their longest song is Violence, which clocks in at 5 minutes.
Yeah. But like on this album, Clapping Hands is 4:46, and the second longest track is 2:53.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I know. It's another great closer, in my opinion. I really like that song. I think we can all relate right now to being stuck inside with nothing to do and slowly deteriorating into our obsessions and vices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what that's like. Stares at empty tequila bottle.
Yes.
Yeah. This is evidently the beginning of, not against me becoming jaded about their political beliefs, but against me becoming jaded about the music industry and their political community. And this really starts to blossom like a mushroom field here. I don't know so much to say about it beyond that because, like I said, like half the record blends into itself for me. I think Brief Yet Triumphant Intermission is one of the few intermissions that can stand up on its own as a song, even though it's just an instrumental. But yeah, I'm going to stop there and open up the floor.
I can go if you
Go
don't
ahead.
mind.
Go on.
Okay, this will probably be easy just because honestly my thoughts really aren't that different. When I went and tore through Against Me's catalog, I went in order of release, and back then I considered Axl Rose and As the Eternal Cowboy to be pretty much on equal footing for me. And it seems reception-wise, that's sort of the case.
Yeah,
Revisiting
when I was
it,
introduced to Against Me, I was told, because this was after Shapeshift with Me had been released, I was told the first two albums and the last two albums are masterpieces and everything else in between you can kind of leave out. I think they're wrong in many ways.
very.
But
Yes, I would agree. Also, this is weird. Have I been listening to Against Me for longer than any of you? Because I heard Transgender Dysphoria Blues when it was released.
As have I.
Okay.
Yeah, and Morgan recommended it to me, but I didn't get to Transgender Dysphoria Blues until it's year before last, I think. No, last year.
If it helps, this would have been almost exactly 4 years ago to now, and they were immediately my favorite band, and they haven't stopped being.
They've been one of my favorites for like a year now, and
yeah,
when I listened to this album, I thought it was like, again, pretty much as good. Time has not been as kind to it, just not in the sense that I think it's like
you're talking about
bad or
Eternal
even
Cowboy
like,
here, right?
yeah, Eternal Cowboy.
Yeah,
I think it's a good record, like a really good record. It's the immediate like difference is that the production is a bit more full sounding, a bit more crisp. Even the vocal performances, I think, from Laura are a little bit more dynamic than they were on the last one.
Yeah.
There's a bit more variety here, but that said, I do find myself preferring the more stripped back approach that we had in Axl Rose, just because I feel it achieves the same highs just with a more good core to its music. Like the dynamic stuff in the first album came from structure, came from songwriting and ideas, and I feel like that's what makes that record special. Whereas it's more leaning into, I feel like this sort of leans into relying on its production just a little bit more than I would like. And like, I do like this album. I would in no way say it's bad. In fact, I'd say it's pretty great, but it just doesn't have the immediate impact that Axl Rose does. And
sure. Do you agree with the comment that I had about some of those songs bleeding together?
No, actually I do. I think that the middle of the record probably is, there's just a stretch there where I don't find myself being uninvolved. It's just that the songs, they're, again, dynamic lack of structure just sort of makes them sound like one big, long, kind of messy song. But again, the highlights here are very high, and they are very much worth it. This is still, the heyday of the band, and when they were writing some of their most thoughtful and interesting lyrics. I think my only real substantive complaint is really just that it's a short album, and I don't think a brief but triumphant intermission adds much of anything at all to the album, even though I wouldn't call it bad. It's just like, when your album's like 24 minutes long and you throw in a 1.5 to 2 minute long thing where it's just kind of like, here it is, here you go. I'm already like, maybe you could have like thrown in another song there, like, because you're really good at making these songs, you know, like maybe give me one that's a bit more substantive. It's a good album that leaves me wanting more from this particular sound, and I enjoy it. That being said, it does fall into the lesser half of the band's discography for me.
I agree. I'm curious to know what Tyler thinks, because
Cool.
I can't guess it.
I'm sorry, I just want to say that I love that so far anyway, the criticisms have been like basically just like compliments really, but like backhanded compliments.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
do
the record's
think,
really good, so
I do think this is not a great record in the way that their first album is. I think it's a good album. I enjoy the way the band demonstrate a sonic branching out here with alt-rock tones filling out the punky thrash of a song like Cliché Guevara, and a much more conventional singer-songwriter folk feel on Sink Florida Sink. I will say, like, I think echoing Jake a little bit, one weakness of this record is its brevity. For punk thrashers, 1 or 2 minutes is perfectly sufficient. But the songwriting and arrangements here are more ambitious and multifaceted than that. And so keeping the song so short hinders that a bit, I think, particularly on songs like Mutiny on the Electronic Bay and Unsubstantiated Rumors, where I'm just starting to get into the song and it's over. That said,
Yeah.
I like the raucous energy and brevity of a song like Rice and Bread. The production quality varies here too, in a way that I'm not a fan of. So compare them, I'm going to say it, muddy and badly mixed, brief yet triumphant intermission to the crisp and gorgeous acoustic guitars of Unsubstantiated Rumors directly after it. There's just an inconsistency in sound there that doesn't quite gel with me. But, you know, that's one thing.
I mean, like, I felt like that song sonically was just sort of drawing from a different sonic space.
Sure.
Almost like some like Brit poppy shoegazy era stuff,
Sure.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I am fine with that like muddy quality, because I just appreciate it on the level that I would a song like that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I just, for what the song is doing for me, I would have liked it better if it were cleaner, but that's a personal preference. One sort of off random comment that I have is that the intro, the first few seconds of the song "Turn Those Claving Hands and Angry Bald Fists" is very similar to the intro to Car Seat Headdress song "Vincent." So much so,
I noted.
so much so
I
that I
noticed that as
feel
well.
like Will Toledo may have borrowed it to intro that song, which is just a really fun like comparison that I was not expecting.
Will Toledo,
wouldn't
known
think Cassie
hack.
Headdress to make that reference.
Well, it's like
You
only
wouldn't
the
think
first few
Cassie
seconds,
Headdress
and
made
then
that
both
reference.
songs change dramatically after that. But yeah. Anyway, but I like the way that I think the song benefits from its extended runtime and filled out structure. It feels very much like a sort of climax of the record. It's been building to this. Topically, it's an effective and biting portrayal of suburban malaise, some of Laura's strongest writing yet, I think. And then you've got Cavalier Eternal, which wraps the record up with a dose of levity. It's an acoustic breakup song that has a lot of character. Quite enjoy it. But yeah, overall, it doesn't have the consistency and it doesn't have the in-your-face immediacy of the first album. But there is plenty of stuff to like here, so it's a decent record.
No, absolutely. I don't mind. I mean, like I said, I have my issues with a lot of the songs on this record, but I don't mind the shorter nature of songs like Unsubstantiated Rumors, because just I almost feel like the anticlimax of those songs are thematically appropriate, where it's just like cutting me, like, where it's like, it's just dead feelings. It's going to do way too much singing on this podcast. I know this band too well. But basically, when that cuts off just there, that like actually just really emotionally impacts me, because it's just like such an early and lyrically poignant place to end the song. Right. It's almost like a slap in the face. It's like, I feel sad now.
Fair enough. No, fair enough. Morgan, what do you think of the album?
Okay, so there's a article on Vice.com in which Laura Jane Grace ranks all of Against Me's records. And
Oh,
as the Eternal Cowboy is at the number 5 spot. That's irrelevant, really, to the discussion. But I just figured you might be
it's
curious.
interesting.
This ranking is really interesting. It's also wrong, but it's really interesting.
What's the ranking?
You're gonna
Just
tell
out of
her
curiosity.
that she's
Okay,
wrong?
so
Like, I'm curious now. I need to hear this.
Yeah, me too.
at the bottom spot we have Searching for Former Clarity.
I can understand why.
No.
And the interviewer asks, "What about this record don't you like?" And she says, "The songs," and then laughs.
Very Laura. Very Laura.
At number 6 is Shape Shift with Me. Keep in mind this interview was only in 2017, a year after that record was released, which is fascinating. At number 5 we have As the Eternal Cowboy. Number 4 we have New Wave, which
All right then.
number 3 is White Crosses, and
Respect.
number 2 is Reinventing Axl Rose, and number 1 is Transgender Dysphoria Blues.
Having read Laura's autobiography, I completely understand why she made all of those choices, even if they're wrong.
Yeah.
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 I feel like a lot of those rankings speak a lot more to much more about how the records felt to make than
the
actual
experience
quality
of making
records.
them,
Yeah.
as opposed to the quality of them.
Yeah.
Because I actually think that the crap time Laura had making Searching for Former Clarity is one that makes it a really great record, in my opinion.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
I
that
have,
one.
yeah.
Morgan, your thoughts on this album?
But, well, the reason I am citing this article to begin with is that this portion on As the Eternal Cowboy starts with, quoting directly from Laura, if I were to criticize this record, I would say that it's really short. I talk about it in the book where we bluffed our way into the deal with Fat Records. They were like, "Do you have a record ready to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, we got it. We're ready to record it." And then I hung up the phone and was like, "Oh shit, we need to write some songs quick." And that illuminates so much about this record, because I think this record's biggest problem is that so many of these songs are just undernourished and underdeveloped in a way that I find kind of unappealing. So I get this negative out of the way early because it pervades a lot of the album, and I also still really like this album. You know, I
Very
think
much agree, man. Very much agree.
So many of these songs are just incomplete, but the ones that are complete and feel full and gratifying to listen to are so damn good that I have to dock points, because at least half of this record feels underdeveloped to me. But like, I love so much of it so much that it doesn't really color my perspective on the album all that much. Like, I think Cliché Guevara is the best song that they had written up to this point, and it would probably be the best song they write until New Wave. It's so good. It's just so good. I don't even have words, man. It's just it's the perfect punk song. It's like an archetype of how good this genre can be when in the ways that it's meant to be used in. It's just full of such energy, and the hooks are incredible, and the lyrics are insightful and poignant, and it's perfect. It's like the definitive Against Me song for me personally, even if it is not my favorite. I love it. And Sink Floor to Sink is just it's wonderful. It's so beautiful.
Song.
I'm gonna cry a little bit. Oh, so good. That's a lot of my thoughts on the album as a whole can be summed up in those two songs, and the negative.
A fun fact about my songwriting: on the EP I've done, there's a song on it called Writer, and there was a moment on it where I very intentionally rip off Sink Florida Sink.
As you should.
Yeah. It's so they make all the right reasons to fuck it up. You're gonna fuck it up. I ripped that off hardcore on that song.
Yeah, that's not even a ripoff. That's an homage. But yeah, that's great.
Alexa played "Burn After Writing" by the Menzingers.
See, I really, really like this album, and it's a shame that it's so underdeveloped.
Yeah.
That's pretty much my thoughts as a whole.
All right.
It's good thoughts. Good thoughts.
Okay. So, do you want to add anything, or wrap it up?
No. I just stuff I want to just add at the beginning of searching, but we'll get to that.
Cool. All right. So, should we do our favorite songs then?
Yeah, same order, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Jake.
All right, my favorite song on the record is Sink Floor to Sink, followed closely by You Look Like I Need a Drink, which is also fucking amazing. And 3 is Cavalier Eternal. My least favorite is A Brief but Triumphant Intermission, and I give it a very, very solid 7 out of 10.
Cool.
What's your rating, sorry?
7.
7. Nice. Morgan.
My 3 favorite tracks are Cliché Guevara, as I have made clear, Sink Floor to Sink, and TSR. And my least favorite is also A Brief Yet Triumphant Intermission, and I am going to give the record an emphatic 7.5 out of 10.
Nice.
Cool.
So, my favorite tracks were Cliché Guevara, Sink Floor to Sink, and probably Turn Those Clapping Hands into Angry Bald Fists. And it's getting a 7 from me.
Cool.
Yo.
My 3 favorites are exactly the same as what Saoirse just said. If I had to pick a least favorite track, I try not to pick interludes, so I won't, even though I don't care for the interlude. So I'll say my least favorite track is Rumors. And I'm going to give this album 7 out of 10.
Nice. My least favorite track, I forgot to say, is probably Slowing the Rhythms. Right, so searching for clarity.
The deviation on that on the rating set for these albums.
Yep.
Can't wait.
Which may change soon.
See, this is. I think this is where we're going to have opinions that diverge from each other.
This is going to be the hot take one. So I just want to preface my talking about searching for formal clarity with this.
So you might like it a bit, do you?
Quite a bit. It might be my second favorite Against Me record.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Laura was having a really, really, really shit time making this record. Her fans were turning against her. She was being approached by industry executives. So it started on Eternal Cowboy, but this was in full force. She was being approached by 2. I can't remember where from. But basically, she was really big friends with one. And she had a conversation with the band, and they were like, look, we'll just go with whichever one offers us complete creative control and the most money. And that was the other one, not the one she was friends with. So that was happening. Dysphoria was getting really bad, and she was going through, like, her first divorce. So shit times all around. Problems with vices, like alcohol, drugs, were getting worse. And basically, this is the point where Against Me stops being a fun band to be in for a really, really, really long time. And I think that Searching for Formal Clarity is Against Me's most dyspeptic, cynical, jaded, angry, self-hating, generally kind of ugly record. And I think that it makes it just one of the strongest to listen to. It's so bracing. I also had the opposite complaint that I do about Eternal Cowboy. Whereas Eternal Cowboy, I felt like a lot of the songs are blended together. I feel like each song here has its own identity. Against Me are branching into a lot more genres in this one. Not genres, but musical approaches. So you get the kind of spacey song Justin. You have the really aggressive political biting satire from Her Lips to God Ears, which names a politician by name who I think was George Bush's foreign secretary. And you get there's this, and then I think it's Unprotected Sex with Multiple Partners, which it is the funkiest song Against Me I've ever recorded. The way the bass line interplays with the rhythm guitar and the lead guitar, each playing a different melody, it's just so involving, and I love it. There's a song Violence, which is a slow burner that is the longest song at 5 minutes, and I love it. I'm going to get on to the general lyrical vibe. Miami's great, and it includes a brass section for the first time on a record, I think, and it really works the way it's like. It almost feels like a hellish carnival, in the way like My Chemical Romance's Mama did when you get to the chorus of da da da, and the trumpets are not quite in tune with the rest of the instruments.
Sorry, what was
Very
it like?
good trumpet sound.
Yeah, that was
Thank you.
transporting.
Trumpet sound.
I thought that fucking too. God damn it.
I love the song How Low. It's like lovely, almost like a perverted idea of a country ballad. Joy is beautiful. I can see how one might throw the critique at it, that it just sounds like a cross between 8 Hours of Sleep and Sink Florida Sink. But I think the songwriting's really good, and it's a song that makes me feel relaxed and at peace and happy, so I don't care. Don't lose touch with that lovely like octave alternating bass line with the syncopated guitars. Really speaks to where Laura's at. And Searching for Former Clarity, which is just a punch in the gut. Jesus, it's like if Against Me made a song that they wanted to feel like a Hanukkah movie. And yeah, just to go through, I think some of the lyrical notes are a bit. The things about Miami, Laura's singing sounds insane. It sounds unhinged.
It does.
And it's scary, frankly. The fact is, there are allusions to political critique with the idea of ballots drifting into the ocean, but really it's just a song that you can appreciate anytime you're feeling very, very angry. And I think that is good. I think the sort of cynical view of the music industry, it's UP's The Shaker and Pretty Girl, showing you how the song's compelling. Justin, I really like. It touches on it's a pretty thematically broad song. It touches on a lot of spots. General idea is that being a musician, a popular musician, is comparable to being a soldier for the US Army, which them being anarchists, you can imagine they're not happy about. And I think it makes its point quite well. Yeah, I have a lot of notes that I can't really read because I was writing quickly on Mediocrity Gets You Peers. But Unprotected Sex and Multiple Partners, like I said, it's very funky. The chorus line, on the inside. Do you want to know how it feels on the inside? Laura talks a little bit about that in this book.
Yeah.
Where Laura talks about basically that people were getting mad against me for just trying to get on with their careers. And Laura had so much shit to deal with. And basically Laura's vibe is like, I just didn't care about what they were complaining about. So I was dealing with all this personal shit and my dysphoria, which was an all-time point of being bad. And the dysphoria really comes through on, well, it's a complicated backstory time. The song Pretty Girls. Are you guys aware of the backstory to the song?
Not at all.
I don't believe so.
Okay. So the lyrics weren't always what they were, and Laura has since changed them back for live renditions. Basically, when in the song Pretty Girls, when Laura says, who would have think that irresponsibility would complicate something like asking for some company? I think the true lyrics and if you listen to the song with these lyrics in your head, it's suddenly a masterpiece of a song. It's a line, who would have thought that something like gender identity would complicate something like asking for some company? And yeah, and as someone who's been a closeted trans for a long time, and had many failed attempts at dating within that context, I relate to this song so fucking hard. And just the way where it's like, there are some truths you must learn to confront, and the idea of how this big secret you have no say over is suddenly stopping you enjoying the idea of love. I'm gonna start crying. I need to move on. From Her Lips to God's Ears, again, it's a political barn burner directly attacking the American invasion of the Middle East that was in full force at the time. And it's interesting how Lindsay Ellis's video on protest music, we didn't talk about this, but they weren't famous, so fuck it. But this is a great protest song. There's got songs like Constant War for Constant Soldiers, Democratic Elections under martial law, an Iraqi president out of control of our choices. After all of this death and destruction, do you really think your actions advocate freedom? Background band goes, no! As if you didn't get the point. And there's the line where it's like, de-escalation through military force. Amazingly pointed, very specific lines Against Me does so well. The president's given a speech in Georgetown to remember the voice of a slain civil rights leader. Do you understand what the martyrs stood for? Just, I love it, and the riff is great as well. Again, Joy is so peaceful, and the lyrics are so fucking poetic. Maybe while I'm not together, I can feel like I'm not alone. I'm still yet to unpack that to the point of literalness, but I feel it's truth when it's said, even if I can't quite unpack it into a direct meaning. And the whole song's kind of like that. It's this idea of like, while I'm losing and I feel like I'm outside of this hellscape, I have some kind of peace. The song How Low, it's a perfect song about self-destruction, about how you can constantly tell yourself, right, today is the day I make it better, and you don't. You just don't. Holy Shit, it's like heavy. It's got this really kind of heavy acoustic intro, which is, again, hard to do, but they do it. And when it transitions into the electric guitar, it's like, duh, duh, duh. I love it. It is droll as well, just really sardonic and sharp and like self-hating. One of the songs where I feel like Against Me is just anger at the world, especially Laura's lyrical, just anger at everything, herself, her public, the music, the world. Really helps with the poetry that comes through. Pop Problems is probably the best scream along chorus they've had since Axl Rose.
I love that song.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's one of the best songs about being in a band as well. The song Don't Lose Touch, it's almost an admission about what they're going to do. And it's just like, just keep your head straight while you're going through this period, you know. And I love it. It's very beat heavy. It's probably their most beat heavy album where you just like, you want to kind of move to it in a way that's not jumping up and down in a mosh pit. Even though Our Worst was still better than most. I love the music there as well. Really, there isn't a song here that I don't hardcore love. I know that's going to be a controversial take, but it's true. I understand why Laura had a bad time making this, and I feel really shitty for saying that I think the shit time Laura had making it makes it better, but I think it does.
Hey, that is not a problem that is exclusive to... I think that happens to many artists making their debatably best work when going through something that forces something different out of them. Cough, cough, Iridescence, cough, cough.
Yeah, again, Iridescence isn't an album that's loved by everyone, but the people that love it really love it. And I really love this very much. Again, the Dysphoria explicitly comes out in maybe their best closer. It would be if Black Me Out didn't exist. Searching for Formal Clarity, the title track, where Laura depicts explicitly ideas of wanting to wear women's clothes, which she was then mocked for in an interview afterwards before she'd come out between this album and the next one. The song came up to her and was like, yo, what the fuck is this about wanting to like dress up in women's clothes on your record? Do you want to wear women's panties? Which just makes me very angry. But also that was one of the first people that Laura talks about coming out to, and they were really good about it. So
I need the trad meme of just like, that you want to wear women's clothes? Yes.
Honestly, but it's such a heart-wrenching song where Laura talks about this fear of a slow body degradation, which I think a lot of trans people can appreciate. This almost like Cronenbergian fear that your body will slowly deteriorate and die with you in it, which is motivated not just by a need to change your body, but a fear that you don't belong in it, like as a trans person. You know. I apologize for any trans people listening if this triggers you, but it's how I feel. That I just don't want to be in this body, so I do have these images of it leaving me. But then again, I understand I need a meat plane to drive.
That's maybe my favorite way a human body has ever been referred to.
A meat plane.
Yes, the meat plane.
Right. So
Midnight
I think I
meat
talked
plane.
Wow.
Wow.
I think I've talked about every song on this record
I don't want
and
to
why I love
fully
every.
exist on the meat plane.
Well, here we are. Meat. I don't want to exist on the meat plane would be a great vaporwave album title.
Stop the meat plane. I want to
anyway.
get off.
Anyway, I think we talked about every song on the record and why I love every song on this record. So I feel like now, if any of you want to trash on it, I can be at peace. So I'm gonna stop talking.
Well,
Morgan, why don't you go first, since you haven't gone first after Saoirse yet?
Yeah.
okay. I will go right ahead and say that I think this is a good record.
Oh.
It is not a really good one. It is not even close to a great one, but I do think it is good. It is just, for all of the reasons that the bad time Laura had making it, for all of those reasons that Saoirse thinks those made it great, those are the reasons I think why it doesn't work. Because it just, there's something wrong with the energy here. I don't really know how to describe it, but it sounds off to me in a way I've never really been able to put my finger on. It's just something about the energy doesn't feel right to me. And
perhaps you could say, in a sense, that the band are searching for former clarity.
Oh no, they absolutely are. They absolutely. But again, part of why I love the record is.
Yeah. 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 That ironically enough, that is a good way of putting it. It just, the band sounds like they are looking for something and they just never quite find it. And it's hard not to feel that way, because even with all of the stuff that Saoirse listed off that the band and Laura was going through at the time, she did miss the fact that Fat Mike hated the record.
Oh yeah, that happened. Yeah.
When the people who are funding and producing your album and putting it out on their label think it sounds like shit, I don't know how you deal with that or contend with that fact, or even make a record that is like 100% something you can fully get behind. And I think that problem kind of pervades on just about every song on the album, except for the title track, which is the one song that I will say fully benefits from this perspective. Because well, my story with that song is also very personal, and it's not something I am prepared to get into. Okay. But I will say it involves the election night of 2016. But that is all I will say on that. I think that song is beautiful, and it utterly destroys me every time. That said, there are also some pretty good ragers on here. I think Miami is a great song. The horn section addition is just a lot of fun to listen to, while also still getting across the sort of bile that the song wants to get across. I think Violence, as much as I see why someone would love that song, it is my least favorite on the album.
Agree.
Because I think it's just so unwieldy, and again, just never really gets to where it's going, I feel.
I don't think I quite, like, the reason I love Violence is because I think you can apply that song really to any kind of, it's broad enough to apply to any kind of disenfranchisement or attempt at change that you feel isn't working, you feel tired of. And for that reason, I really love it, because I feel like it just encompasses so much of the general dyspeptic tone of today.
Yeah. I wish I understood, because I think the song itself is just pretty boring. And that's a problem that I feel comes across in a lot of the songs, whether it just be an energy thing or just something I do not vibe with. I have always had trouble getting fully on board with this record, even though I do enjoy a fair amount of it. And yeah, that's pretty much all.
Okay, that's fair.
That's fair,
That's
but
fair
you're
enough.
stupid.
No, I'm not even going to do the thing I do. I say like you're wrong, but that's fine because you're not wrong. Like I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a complicated record to even
Yeah.
dive into in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah. Does anyone else want to give the voice to their opinion?
Jake, you go.
Okay. In true Jake fashion, I tend to, as mentioned, for whatever reason, I gravitate towards albums like Searching for a Former Clarity. And just because I am a fan of seeing how people I like and respect channel their chaos and unwieldiness into music. And I love a lot of, Iridescence being one. I also think Nick Cave's Skeleton Tree is also a good example of this, mainly because a lot of those songs were written before what that album is about happened. So it makes the record very, very different. And this is definitely one of them. Admittedly, I do not like it as much as any of the records I just listed, not by a long shot at all. But that said, this used to be like my second to least favorite of theirs, and it hasn't like shot up or anything, but I gotta say, for all of its weirdness, its wonkiness, and Morgan put it right, there is definitely something weird about the energy of this album. It has like, fitting in with the grooves of it is an awkward process, and I can only describe it as being awkward as I have listened to it more. But upon my visit most recently, I think it's really an album that's like it's like the band heard my problems with As the Eternal Cowboy and then overcompensated for all of them.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And it leads me to thinking very similar things about the albums in question, even though I do kind of prefer this to As the Eternal Cowboy, just because I love the highlights a lot more here. I think that like the production's obviously a bit of more of a step up. It's like gradually been getting more and more it sounds a bit more alt-rocky, which will come full circle on the next record. But like it's a progression of Eternal Cowboy sound-wise. But even though it is a progression and an advancement, and I do think that this album wears this progression better than As the Eternal Cowboy, it also leads to the record having a few more misses and being less consistent. There are songs like them meditating on themselves, on unprotected sex with multiple partners. Not the last time we will see them do that. A lot of times on this record, though, despite the production, I feel like it's hearkening back to the spirit of Axl Rose, like on the beginning of How Low, which I kind of wish they had gone back to basics. Like, if this album was made with the sonic direction of Axl Rose, I think this would be like an unequivocally fantastic album. Just fucking incredible. But it just doesn't have that consistency. And I actually find myself preferring when the band slows down and becomes a bit more meditative on this record. They do it a lot more from this going forward, but it works for me here more than it doesn't work, which is weird because the last two records are mainly albums that hold themselves on of being like, you know, an adrenaline shot to the arm. They're short, they're brief, but they are energetic and they go hard. And this is a good look for them. I like taking a step back and just slowing down their sound is surprisingly fitting, even though they would take that and build upon it and make it a whole lot better later. I also like the back half a lot more than the front half. I don't know how controversial that particular take is, but all the songs that I really, really emotionally gravitate to are on the back half. It is a little too long. I think maybe a cut of 1-2 songs, maybe one specifically very long song in the form of Violence, which
would make it the length of both of the previous records.
Yeah, I mean, like it's over 40, yeah. something like that.
47
it's 35. I thought
Yeah.
it was 35.
No, it was somewhere in the 40s. I wanted it to
47
be
minutes, I think.
Yeah. It needed to
Okay.
be a little bit shorter, and I know, like, when you think of an album's length and you think 47 minutes, that's not that much. I'm like, well, for Against Me at this time, kind of is. And they do stretch themselves a bit thin. They do tread water occasionally, but man, the highlights just, they really keep me here. Songs like Miami, Even at Our Worst, are still better than most people, or Joy, are songs that I love, that I think are some of the best material the band's ever come out with. And I guess if I had to nail down the nitty gritty of what it is about this album, it's that the lows are undeniable, but they also just don't affect me. Like when one of the more lower tier songs plays, like Violence, for example, which it is the most egregious example of this, it's not bad enough for me to be like, I'm not enjoying myself. Like, it just manages to work so well in what it does, that its flaws don't seem inconsequential, but they seem way more tolerable. And it's a bit of a mess, but it's a mess that I gravitate to in a very weird way. It's a conflicted record. It's a weird sounding album with weird grooves and weird ideas, and they're trying to progress their sound, and it sometimes works. But yeah, I respect it. And I found myself really liking it, revisiting it, now that I sort of knew that I was in more of an unyieldy territory, I suppose. So yeah, I like it a lot.
I mean, I might deny some of the lows, but that's me.
Yeah, so I just like this band better when they're being, more concise.
Yep.
That said, I think this is their best album.
Yeah, I knew it.
What?
And you.
Whoa. Whoa. We are getting the hot takes today. Holy shit. Wow.
Morgan's just sitting there like, I saw this shit coming, don't you?
I didn't want to.
I hate it.
I didn't want to guess it last night because I didn't want to will it into existence. But here we are.
I thought it was going to be Shapeshift with me, but I was wrong.
No, I did a wee fake
there
out.
are some days.
I did a wee fake out there with you when I said I like them when they're being more concise, which I guess probably I do. But I just think this is their most consistent album. Oh no, Reinventing Axl Rose is very consistent, but this is almost as consistent. But I just think it is, in terms of how it all comes together, I like it more. Okay. Let me
I'm
get
baffled.
All right.
Baffled. Go ahead.
This is an arrival for the band. I think this is the branching out I wanted from the initial set of sounds we got on Reinventing Axl Rose. This is kind of the branching out that I wanted from the follow-up to that record. It already feels like a step forward immediately with opening track Miami. This is a more expansive, confident foray into a still heavily punk-influenced, aggressive alternative rock. Miami has tremendous energy, a great vocal performances from Laura, a nice horn section that supports and some backing vocals. It just feels larger than life. It's immediately declarative that musically speaking, the band are far from out of ideas, nor are they content to settle into a straightforward punk mode. Production-wise, the band sound fuller than ever on the raging Mediocrity Gets You Peers, complete with hand claps and multiple simultaneous thrilling guitar lines. I love that shit, man. Justin is a powerful and melodic rock song with a cutting message about the ways in which American institutions use and discard people en masse. It's a beautiful song. I love it. I adore the surging energy of unprotected sex with multiple partners, with its message of the struggle for relevance to be heard in an unforgiving world, specifically the unforgiving world of music management. But there's other broader allusions you could make with that song as well that I think Saoirse's already touched on. The band slowed down the pace on the brooding post-punky violence. I'm surprised no one has mentioned the post-punk influence on that track yet.
I can see it.
It's kind of the only song in their whole repertoire where I detect that kind of influence. Perhaps it may just be prediction on my part, but I fucking love that song. I love it so much. I think it's
You would.
I think it's an album standout. I think it's one of the band's best songs, one of their most emotional songs. I love the shit out of it. It's so good. When you were sitting there trashing it, I'm like, are we listening to the same song? Because this shit fucking rules.
Evidently not.
Apparently.
It's so good. I enjoy the folky struts of the devastating drug ballad How Low. I like the startling prettiness of the interlude Joy. I like the 90s alt-rock swing of Holy Shit. All of these songs offer unique new elements to the record that kind of flesh it out in ways that are colorful and thrilling, I think. I love the almost pop-punk feel of the brilliant Problems, which is a great song, a satisfying short burst of cathartic release. It's an easy album highlight. If I have one kind of song that I'm not as huge on, it might be Don't Lose Touch, which I think is a little too lyrically on the nose, especially for a theme that the album is already pretty thoroughly explored, but it's still a fine song. The title track, though, oh boy, what a closer. It's my favorite closer in the band's discography as well. I think it's one of the most impactful, one of the most emotionally devastating songs. It's a slow build to a halted conclusion, which I really like. I like that it's harder hitting for its restraint and for its subtlety. That was a great decision to make on the part of the band. And yeah, I think this is a record that certainly it is the record that I think holds up the best on repeat listens, because there's so much there that is so great to me, and you don't necessarily latch onto it all immediately or discover it all immediately, but it just
or across years.
It became apparent to me, at least, how even though there were these undeniable highs, that the other tracks were just as good as well, or were almost as good, were good in their own right in ways that I think become more and more apparent the more time you spend with the record. I just love it to bits. It's not like necessarily like easily my favorite, but it is my favorite Against Me album. It's the one that has been the most satisfying to me to live with, and it's an embarrassment of riches. I just adore this record. And yeah, I'm so happy, as I often am, but I'm super happy here to be a point of contrast, because yeah, I do think that it deserves a passionate defense. And Laura's a bit whack for putting it at the bottom of her list. Say that. But I mean, I respect it. Her album, her experience, the band's experience. But for me, I couldn't ask for anything better. Good album.
I love that opinion. My opinion was more negative than I let on. I was more focused on the naysaying than I was, but I am glad that I am not the only one who's just. I was afraid I was going to be like, yeah, I actually kind of like it a lot, and then people were just going to be like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, I also did that. This is why I said it first. I want to maintain that this is a good album, but when we're talking about a band that only has one bad album, the good ones, it's like it. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I think what you guys described as like a difficult feel to an awkward feel, I just find very interesting, and I want to like leap into it and investigate. And I think that's probably why I love it so much, is that I think it's a really strange and interesting record with a lot of like musical nooks and crannies you can explore. I
like that approach.
Yeah.
I certainly understand it. I just don't agree.
I do wish it yielded the dividends that it did for Saoirse and Tyler, but I'm close. I'm almost there. Maybe I'll like it even more a year from now. Who knows?
I've tried for years and I'm done trying. This is where I'm at.
Yes.
Perspective.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right. So we've gone in Jamson order thus far. Do we want to switch it up?
Sure, I can go first with the favorite tracks if you want. So
Cool.
My favorite tracks are Searching for a Form of Clarity, Violence, and Justin. My least favorite track, if I had to pick one, would be Don't Lose Touch, and I give this album a 9 out of 10.
So that's you, Saoirse.
Did he give a rating?
Yeah, 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 9.
Yeah.
Oh, you were glitching out on my end.
Sorry.
So I don't know what that was.
All
it's
60
fine.
frames per second of Tyler.
Right. So my top 3 would probably be From Her Lips to God's Ears, Pretty Girls, and I'm going to say Joy. My least favorite track doesn't exist. And what was your rating again, Tyler? Sorry.
It was 9 out of 10.
Right, well, I'm giving it a 10.
Beautiful. I love that. Love
We
that
love to
for
see
her.
it. Right.
And
Morgan.
Oregano.
Moregano?
my
Yeah.
favorite tracks are
Morgan.
the title. Shut up. Trying to speak. My favorite tracks are the title track, Miami, and Holy Shit. And my least favorite is Violence. Fuck you, Tyler. And my rating is a decent 6 out of 10.
Neat.
Jick.
Well, my favorite songs are Miami, Even at Our Worst, We're Still Better Than Most People, and Joy. My least favorite, Violence. I won't say fuck you, Tyler, but I will say you're dumb and I don't like you.
That's somehow even more hurtful.
That's so much worse.
It really is. But I give the album a tentative 7.5 out of 10.
Cool.
Cool. Oh my god.
I think this is as divergent as our opinions are going to get.
Oh, maybe.
Morgan, we're gonna have to put up fisticuffs for white crosses. I can feel it. Whatever Morgan just did with his face is the opposite of the Antonio Banderas meme. Like it's like that the meme's tethered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
like you hold up a stinky plate to my face.
All right, we're ready to move on, Saoirse.
oh boy,
Alright,
here we go.
Hello. Okay,
Oh, I gave it a
so,
7.5 out of 10.
It's fine. I'm not on a computer at the moment because mine is fucking dead. But
That's all right. I'm recording.
so I can't put it into the document. Lovely. All right. So now we enter
Fuse
the era
fucking
of
dead.
one Mr. Butch Big.
Lord.
Sort of rock music super producer. Made a lot of good stuff, a lot of less than good stuff, some of which we might talk about today.
Right now, you might say.
Let's not beat around the fucking bush here.
No, this is their worst album, New Wave. The reason they chose to work with Butch Vig was basically he was the only producer they offered who consistently worked in the rock genre. So they went with him, which is...
It was either him or Timbaland.
That would be a record. I don't know. I'm not going to say it would be good, but I would like to hear it.
That would be
Of course
the
you would.
Lulu, the
Of course you
Lulu of
would.
Against Me.
Be against me with synths, and Tyler would be like, "Oh, this is fascinating."
No, look,
was
that
named
it would probably hypothetically suck, but you know, it would be interesting to talk about.
Named by
More
Spin
interesting.
Magazine as the #1 record of the year.
It was?
It got a... Yeah.
Who's number one
Got a
record of
fight...
the
Spin magazine.
Spin. Okay.
Yeah.
In the
I'm gonna add that to my
Yes.
shit list.
Reputable establishment.
It got a 5.5 in Pitchfork, which I used to really resent back in the day, but now I realise it's not good. That's fine with me now. There's something about this record where it's like, it's not like I think the songwriting is less good, and I don't think it's different. But with Searching for More Clarity, I feel like the songs are broadly played similarly. There's something in the production that makes them sound crap.
Yep.
And it might just be because they make it all sound so dry. And it makes it sound like a pop rock song, which these are not necessarily. And it just takes out all of the urgency punch that we had with the last 3 albums. I think there are still highlights and good songs here, despite this. I think the more fleshed out production and the more dynamic production as well. The song like Thrash Unreal works with this kind of production style. There's a very sad story in the book about the song that I'm not going to tell on air because it's just going to ruin the mood because it's very sad. I think Born on the FM Waves of Your Heart is a perfectly fine sort of pop punk romantic ballad. It's got some interesting songwriting choices and instrumentation choices, and I think the feature's really good, if a bit not needed, really. And the closer, The Ocean, holy fuck, what a great song this is. Like, it's got a killer guitar solo, really kind of surreal, abstract lyrics, and that really directly addresses gender dysphoria. Laura talks in the book about singing the second verse about if I could have chosen, it would have been born a woman, and just looking at the booth, and everyone's just like, no, it's fine. Didn't notice anything unusual about that. Just like, I'm trying to tell you guys, like, come on. Like, how do you not get it?
Do you want me to shoot off fireworks that spell out, I want to be a woman? Like, what?
Yeah. I think people give too much credit to abstract, poetic, artistic license in lyrics sometimes, which is fair, because this is a lyrically weird song about wanting to be water at parts. It's weird, but it is one of my favorite Against Me songs. That being said, White People for Peace, I respect it, but it ain't me.
I don't respect it, really.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, no, like, I respect what it's trying to do thematically, but I think it's lazy and poorly written and poorly recorded.
I think that the hook on that song, Protest Songs in Response to Military Aggression, is one of their clunkiest hooks ever.
And they just repeat it over and over, and it's the whole song. It's the whole song.
I mean, look, you could say the same thing about so many songs on this record. That the chorus is just...
I mean,
the thing is...
That's my problem.
Whilst I like the idea of a hook that goes, are you restless like me? When you've done it so many times, I am restless. Yeah. Just because I want the song to be over.
I had that thought this morning.
And really, I think what Butch Vig's production ultimately does is it reduces interesting musicians to cock rock, essentially.
Yep.
You can see this no clearer than on the title track, New Wave. And songs like Americans Abroad. Oh, I forgot to mention, before this, they recorded a live album called Americans Abroad, which I haven't listened to. I'm not going to, because I already have 23 live sex acts, which is much better than whatever Americans Abroad would have been. And yeah, just overall, confused record. Butch Vig's advice to Laura was just to write as much as you can. And as a result, I don't think the songs are getting nearly enough attention in the songwriting phase. Even though I think there are highlights here. I think songs like Stop, which I used to defend, and I don't know why, because it's bad.
Okay, I thought you were going to launch into a defense of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that is easily my least favorite song on the album.
That is easily my least favorite song they have ever recorded.
And it's like you have songs of Searching for Former Clarity that really address in interesting ways the internal conflict of wanting a career and not wanting to betray your fan base and like wanting to be able to live. And this is a song that addresses all of those things in the worst ways possible. I have, aside from that, nothing to say because it's a bland fucking album. So if anyone else wants to have a go, have a go.
I'll just go ahead and rip this Band-Aid off. Sweet
Go on.
and gentle Jesus. What a disappointing record. So the next thing I ever clicked on was the video for Thrash Unreal, and I was like, yes, great, this song rules. And I stand by that opinion. I absolutely love that song. And then I threw on the rest of the album, and I was like, no, don't think
it's
so.
It's not quite my tempo.
It really isn't. It really isn't. It really stunted me fully getting into the band for a while too, which is just unfortunate because this but it's hard. It's hard for me to not understand why, because this album sucks. It's just so middling and so uninspired. It features easily their worst songwriting, just repeating the same clunky ass lines over and over and over again. Like
Protest songs in response to military aggression.
Stop, take some time to think, figure out what's important until you stop. Take some
Are
time.
you restless like me?
Stop. Take some time to think.
Are you restless like me?
It's serious to say.
Protest songs in response to military aggression.
Restless like
I think my point has been illustrated. It's just lazy and it's underdeveloped and it sounds bad to boot.
Yeah.
But this does, in fact, have my favorite Against Me song, which just might be a normie ass take, but it's Born on the FM Waves of the Heart.
Good song.
One of my favorites on the record. Good choice.
Yeah,
Morgan,
Morgan, I'm pleased to dispel any worries you have. I love that song as well.
Okay.
Good song. Yeah,
okay,
same.
I was worried I was going
Good
to have
song.
to kick
Very
your
good
ass.
song.
My number 2.
That's just a song that I had been playing a lot when I was in love with somebody and it felt like it was going to kill me. So and that feeling has never worn off. It's just, I think the feature on it is fantastic. And
Shout out
I
to
think,
Sarah.
yes,
Good band.
great band.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the
My
one
favorite song
time.
about sorry.
This is the one time on the album that the production actually helps it. I think the way that it absolutely soars every time it gets to the chorus is absolutely euphoric and really addictive. And I just one of my favorite songs ever. And it is like digging through 30 minutes of turds to find just gold that will save your life and give you great fortune. But you also have to dig through some other turds to get out the other side of it.
Morgan
And then
says, I want the Best Against Me song, Monkey's Paw Finger Curls.
and then you get
My
a little
favorite- yeah.
and then you get a little more gold at the end, at the very end, because The Ocean is a
Yeah.
great song that is not helped at all by its bad production, but it is a great song.
Yeah.
This album sucks.
Yeah. My favorite story about Born on the FM Waves of the Heart that's in the book is basically Against Me were touring, searching for clarity. I think they're on the Warped Tour, and the member of Taken and Sarah that features on Born on the FM Waves of the Heart basically was doing an interview segment for, I think it was MTV Online or something. And she spoke to Against Me, and they got on really well. And in the interview, they joked about doing a feature together. And then they were just like, fuck it, okay.
Yeah. And I feel like that's just how punk rock works. Like, things just start as a joke and then it actually happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like corporate in the way that like hip hop.
The rest of
now.
Although
rest of
this
the
album is depressingly corporate.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll jump into my review now if that's all right.
Yeah, go on.
It's I'm not going to vary from the consensus that much. I will say, like, I don't think this is like an outright bad album, like Morgan has expressed. I just think that it has a lot of bad
Must be
songs on it.
nice.
Like like it's just, it has a lot of bad songs on it, but like there is still some good stuff here. Like I don't mind the opening track. I think it's
It's the sign of someone struggling to think of songs.
no, the opening track, the title track, is a thrilling declaration of purpose, a catchy, memorable intro. Not a great song, but pretty good. Up the Cut's second track is decent. It feels a bit stale though. Doesn't really offer that much, but it's not bad. Thrash Unreal is great. I think it's the best song on the album. It's clear by the point that we get to this track that we're miles from the band's humble beginnings. It's a proper mainstream rock radio song. and that at the very least has all the conviction and oomph of the band's best work. The previous hints at the band's pop sensibilities have really come to the forefront here, and it does result in one.
But can they sing Me to the End of the World?
Well, lead single White People for Peace fares less successfully, decisively, returning to Laura's established style of heavily political poetry, but with an instrumental that feels very uninspired and even stale. I've already said that I dislike the hook immensely. We're not going to keep beating that dead horse like they do.
Wow.
It's overly wordy.
Right.
It's overly wordy, and it lacks the catchiness of their better singles. It all just sounds really clumsy. Stop's even worse. It's a confrontation of fans accusing them of selling out, and though that's certainly, I suppose, relevant with it, Believe being the major label debut, I find Laura's writing generally it's least compelling when it's dealing with this meta aspect in terms of the band and the band's identity. Like I said, it's mixed for me. Sometimes it works, but more often than not, it just kind of feels self-indulgent, and it's really the case here on this song in a really off-putting way. Piss and Vinegar is even less interesting for the same reasons. Born on the FM Waves of the Heart is a great song, fares much more successfully. I enjoy the raucous physicality of Laura's performance here, a real aggression that's rooted in a tangible personal frustration. It's a great song. Americans Abroad is a kind of wry and humorous track about commercialism and exceptionalism and how they're kind of of the American identity. I haven't paid it any compliments yet. I've just said that it's wry and humorous because it is, but it's a well-treated and it's a fairly broad topic, and it isn't really given depth here or nuance. It's just pretty dull. I have
You said it was humorous, which he has cut out.
There he is.
Yeah,
Found him.
sorry, I'm back. Yeah, look, I'm trying to be fair here. I don't really like Americans Abroad that much. I've practically
Wow, I see how it is.
I have practically nothing to say about the
You're
song,
not the broadcast.
which I think sucks hard, like really hard. And in the Ocean, the closing track, it continues a trend for the band of show-stopping closers with some of Laura's most candidly personal lyrics up to this point. It's almost as if the first half of the song is her attempt to write kind of a classic American song with this expansive, poetic lyricism, whereas the second half becomes more personal and addresses her dysphoria and a moving public expression of feelings that presumably have been deeply private for a long time. I really enjoy the poignancy of the final line of the song too. There's an ocean in my soul where the waters do not curve. It's a beautiful line. Maybe my favorite lyric that she's written that I've heard. I love that line. It's very, very evocative. I do think instrumentally, though, the song is kind of stale in some of the same ways as other songs on the album. And it is a real shame. It's a real shame that I don't really care for this song instrumentally because of how beautifully lyrical it is. It really makes me upset because, I can deal.
Oh, wow. I really
across
like the instrumentals on that song.
It's not one of the worst ones on the album, but it just is kind of muddy and just not that interesting to me. I much prefer when a song is just all across the board bad, but it really bugs me when a song is beautiful lyrics instrumentally engaging me.
I feel that.
But anyway, I don't think this is like a steaming turd of an album. I just think that it has more bad songs than it has good songs, and it doesn't have that many good songs. It's kind of redundant what I just said. Anyway,
like the album.
Yeah, it's
wow.
If I may, I'm gonna demonstrate to you a guitar tutorial on how to play Americans Abroad. Keep in mind, I have not looked up anything on how to play the song. Actually, it's just get the fingering there.
Podcast first.
We're in the wrong tuning. Hang on.
It's already more engaging than the song. Watching you tune your guitar.
Is someone going to get the tuning right?
There it is. Okay. Yeah, the whole song is just.
Mm.
The whole time.
Yeah.
That was a very basically Morgan was just
Well,
transferring, I think, from an A
the
power chord to
fingering.
an F sharp. I want to say.
It's F sharp to E, but
Oh yeah.
it looked like that because this is in the wrong tune,
Right.
and I moved some stuff up. But it's those two chords over and over again until you die.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And it's not even the worst song on the album.
Yeah, I mean, the studio actually hated the ocean. They wanted it off. They didn't get it.
Well, they would.
I
Lick my butthole.
control in this respect. Laura nearly walked, and they left the song in.
Understandable.
Anyone?
Jake, do you have anything?
Jake, have you
I
spoken
have
about
not.
this record?
I mean, okay, look. I think even though their opinions are not far away from one another, I think I sit between Tyler and Morgan in an interesting way, in that inherently I do not think, as it is, that this is necessarily a superlatively bad album. I think it's an album that basically just only in like very slightly, but just is still kind of bad. But what does take it down a notch for me, and I'm not trying to be, because I've been making fun of these people the whole time, I'm not trying to accuse them of selling out. But what I'm saying is this album sounds like they sold out. I don't care if they did or not, and you can tell me whether or not like that is irrelevant. This album just sounds like it is the result of, like, it is a corporate sounding album. It is an album that is veering onto the alt rock scene that was popular at the time, and as a result, like, I found it interesting that on Apple Music, this is the first album they have that's like labeled alternative, and it's kind of right.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound like a punk album to me. I listen to this and I'm just like, I guess, maybe. And it's kind of antithetical to everything that came before it in a way where I'm just like, yeah, I don't really have much to latch on to with this album, just because it doesn't really feel like it came from a genuine place of artistic expression. And that's, save for its shining moments, which it does have as listed. Like, I think The Ocean's a great closer. I think Born on the FM Waves of the Heart is a great song. And Thrash Unreal, great song. I know those three being your favorite songs on the record is kind of a cliche, but here's the thing, they're the only songs I have any feelings for at all.
Completely agree. Completely agree.
It is, and even then, Thrash Unreal, good song. I don't really care for the like the sort of vocal harmonies that appear in the song. They're like the da da da. Like, why is that in there? Stop that. It would be better without it. Take it out. What is it here?
It does.
Precisely. Take it out of the song. It would be better. White People for Peace. It would be okay if 75% of the song wasn't the hook. There's a theme through the album of trying to adapt and change with the times. It's just that inherently this is kind of a bad thing, because their attempt to change with the times leads to them delivering their most subpar work. And the repetition of every song is really what kills it for me, and the fact that lyrically it's just treading water. Most of these songs are songs and topics that have been covered before and since much, much, much better. And even the songs that I said that I liked, the three songs that stand out to me the most, are songs that I still do have reservations with, save for Born on the FM Waves of the Heart, which I really don't have any problems with. But yeah, it's not good.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I may have overdone how bad I think this album is just a bit, because in terms of every other band ever, in the terms of the music world as a whole, this is like a light 5 to strong 4. But in terms of Against Me's discography, this is like a 2.
Yeah, concur.
So,
but the sad thing is that it is by far the most mainstream known record they've done. It's like the most commercially successful. It's depressing that this approach to music making worked.
Yeah, it is.
Get me? Like, basically, because Against Me was such an awful, not fun time band to be a part of at the moment. Laura's problems with dysphoria and self-hatred and drugs and alcohol was making her an arsehole to be around as a band leader. and like it just was not a fun band to be in. They basically just toured the whole time between this and their next album. They went back on the Warped Tour, and Laura talks about in the book of being on the Warped Tour, promoting this record, and everyone being like, "You just had the #1 record of the year in Spin Magazine. What the fuck are you doing here?" And it's just, yeah, sad time to be in this band. It's a record that was gutted by a studio who wanted a mainstream alt rock record. It's an overwritten and underwritten album at the same time, and
Yeah.
it's their biggest.
Anyway,
Right.
shall we move on?
Yeah.
Shall we move on to
Tracks and
ratings?
ratings.
Shall we go in the same order as last time?
Okay, why not? So my 3 favorite tracks are Thrash Unreal, Born on the FM Waves of the Heart, and The Ocean. Fuck.
Shocker.
My least favorite track is Animal.
It's an
What a s-
embarrassment of
what a
the
s-
opposite of riches.
It's a riches of embarrassment. And I'm gonna I'm,
That's brilliant.
I'm gonna give the album 4.5.
You motherfucker! You stole my favorite songs in the same order and my rating.
Uh-huh.
The same.
Look, don't
It's the
blame
exact
me.
same.
Don't
So,
blame me.
Hey, we knew going in that the standard deviation on this wouldn't be all that.
No, absolutely. I'm not even. It's amazing how like-minded we are sometimes. Like it's incredible.
I am so
Like I mean,
ambivalent.
I'm not fucking like you can't even see
I'm
it.
so
whatever.
ambivalent to negative about this album that even though it has nothing to do with new wave music, it's making me dislike new wave music a little bit more association.
BRB gonna downgrade all my New Order albums by half a point.
I can't do that. I listened to a great
So
new wave
shitty.
album just yesterday that Spencer recommended to me, so I can't shit talk new wave music. But anyway, not a great album. Saoirse, your turn.
No. Right. Thrash Unreal, Born on the FM Waves of the Heart and the Ocean. I don't even have to look. My least favourite song. And at least I remember White People of Peace and Stop Before Being Bad. But songs like Piss and Vinegar, Americans Abroad, and I have no thoughts on it all. So one of them just for being forgettable. And I'm also going to give it a 4.5.
Okay, Morgan.
Yeah,
Morgan.
yeah. My top 3 are the same as everyone else's. My least favorite is Stop, and my rating is 3.5 out of 10.
Finally, some originality.
Brutal.
And on the
But
note
I'm
of
here
finally some
for-
originality, my 3 favorite songs are the ones everybody said. My
What?
least favorite is Stop, and my rating's a 4.5.
I do think the title track is pretty good. I will say that.
Hilarious.
I don't. Yeah.
That's nice.
So,
Good for you.
no one
I'd
liked
love
the
to live
title
in
track?
Tyler's head.
Okay.
Good for you, honey.
I thought the title track was alright.
Imagine having the generosity of spirit that Tyler
Let's-
has.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Actually, can I
Let's.
request we take a small break so I can just get some more stuff to drink?
Okay.
No,
okay.
not.
Okay, let's go.
Welcome back to. We're gonna kill Tyler.
It's my favorite show.
White Crosses.
On the church.
The second Butch Vig record, and the album that damn near killed the band. We'll get into this more with Transgender, Dysphoria, Blues, but between these 2 records, the band nearly fucking died. Not literally died, just nearly completely fell apart irrevocably. I'll get into that more when we talk about Transgender, Dysphoria, Blues. But, yeah, it's pretty clear with this record, I think, just how much Laura just doesn't really how despondent Laura is. I think that, well, in the book it's very clear when she talks about Butch Vig's production. Because I think this is worse production than New Wave, in my opinion. And it's because Laura wasn't really fighting him, just whatever. She knew that they had more overlays and guitar lines and vocal lines than they could ever perform live, and didn't really give a shit, which is sad because the actual songwriting is some of her best on this record, I think. And it's really frustrating with songs like Bamboo Bones, which is some of her best lyrics, but some of Butch Vig's most overblown production.
Agreed.
Similarly with, so it was something like Ache With Me. I think the first two songs, White Crosses and I Was a Teenage Anarchist, the two big singles, don't suffer as badly from this. I do think the lyricism on White Crosses is a bit more not good. I think it's still a great song, but it just feels like a list of random things at some point. If you didn't know, because I didn't know until I looked it up, the white crosses in the title and the chorus will refer to a thing, a church that she was living near had, where they had a white cross on the front lawn for every child that was aborted in the state every year.
Ew.
So when she says, yeah, I want to smash them all, it's like a pro-life statement, so I don't know if that came across. Not pro-life, pro-choice.
Yeah, I was going to say, watch
saying?
your mouth there.
Yeah. Interesting. There's an interesting history to the song I Was a Teenage Anarchist. It was one of the first Against Me songs I ever heard. A friend showed me the music video. So it's pretty cool. But it is a song that rankles with a lot of people because it's very, as they have always been, very confrontational to the punk establishment. Then this band called Rise Against that you might have heard of released a song called Architects. It was a lead song on that album, and it directly references I Was a Teenage Anarchist, because the chorus goes, do you remember when you wanted to set the world on fire? I still do, and I know you do too. And this is Rise Against, who are a much more mediocre band at the best of times.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, notably great band, Rise Against.
Yeah, I ended up, like, there were we just grew apart in the end, but I had a friend and who's way more into Rise Against than against me, and I'm the reverse, and we saw Rise Against live together.
I feel they have better taste.
Yeah, it was pretty good because
I will come to the defense of Rise Against, particularly on for the albums Siren Song of the Counterculture and Suffer.
Yeah, no, Rise Against are good. I like Rise Against.
Suffer and the Witness is a great album of that era.
Absolutely. And I think they've got some more, like, in the last decade albums that are pretty good. I've seen them live. I like them.
Yeah, they're fine.
Laura clapped back. I'm just going to read you her response. It's kind of short, but I wrote a lot of it in short. It was misinterpreted by Tim, the lead singer of Rise Against, and a lot of people. I'm not asking myself, do you remember when you wanted to set the world on fire? I'm asking the listener that. I'm not saying that I'm so... I can't read my own handwriting. Basically, she was saying, this is an attack at all of you. Or it's like, stop this fucking infighting. Like, we're here to do something important, remember? You know, do you remember when you wanted to set the world on fire? Like, let's get together here. And then she said at the end, I'm not even sure what Rise Against politics are. Is it to be poster boys for Peter while wearing Nike shoes?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Rip.
She said that their politics are opportunistic and self-serving.
Not untrue.
Yeah.
I mean,
so basically, I think...
I thought that the meaning...
Back to what I was saying.
Sorry to interrupt. I just thought that the meaning
you go.
of a Teenage Anarchist was, like, immediately, like, quite easy to pick
Yep.
up. I didn't think it was...
Yeah,
You would think, right?
Yeah.
You would think that.
Yeah.
You would think
I'm
that.
an anarchist and you're a spineless liberal. Hey-o.
Yeah, there was a review of the record. I think it might have been Pitchfork, I'm not sure. Probably someone else. That said that the song I Was a Teenage Anarchist showed that Baby I'm an Anarchist was what it always seemed to be, which is just a novelty song. Which I hate. I think this is what I mean when I say that as much as I love the music and the ethos of folk punk and punk, a lot of the people who are big in the community are fucking arseholes.
Stupid. Just dumb. They don't know how to read.
Or, like, interpret thoughts or art.
I was a teenage anarchist, still one my favorite songs. I think it is also the pinnacle of their faith in the ideas, which I think is kind of a beautiful thing. There are, for example, a rapid decompression, but there are equally loads of songs I just don't really give a shit about. Like the last 4 songs, I just have no memory of, except for the harmonica bit at the beginning of Bob Dylan Dream. I remember that. Bamboo Bones, great song. Love that to pieces.
To be listening to the deluxe edition of the album, because Bob Dylan Dream is not.
Okay, that might well be true. Ignore me.
I was also going to say,
What
the
about
last
Bamboo
4?
Bones?
Well, if those 4 tracks aren't on the album, then it's a much better record.
Yep.
Well, it starts with White Crosses and ends with Bamboo Bones. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a much better record than what I thought it was. So that's great. I like liking music more.
Isn't it nice?
Yeah, it's still mid. Suffocation also suffers from Fig's production, as does Because of the Shame. 2 songs I think are really good, but are ruined by the overblown production. I suspect Morgan will have a lot more to say about this record than I do, because a lot of it just washes over me. So yeah, I'm gonna take a step back.
Yeah. Okay. I will not be the contrarian that says this album is well produced, because it's easily their worst produced album. It sounds like a shiny turd. But I have been listening to this for years now, and I have made my peace with it because I think the songs are just that damn good. Like, both Because of the Shame and Suffocation are just about ruined by their production. I would agree completely. But I think
there's
the
a wonderful
songs...
acoustic rendition online of Because of the Shame. I recommend you seek it
Yeah,
out.
I've actually heard that one.
As well as White Crosses and Also Teenage Anarchist, they bring in an accordion. It's very cool.
Oh, brilliant. But yeah, that's just something I've had to get over because I love these songs so much. Pretty much uniformly, even the weaker ones. Like Suffocation isn't a song that I love, even if it was produced well, but I still think it is very enjoyable. That's probably the biggest weak spot on the record for me. But otherwise, like the title track and I Was a Teenage Anarchist and Ache With Me. Ache With Me. That
With Me so fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That hit me in my soul space. We're Breaking Up and High Pressure Low are just, they're not particularly insightful or anything, but they are a whole lot of fun. I love the opening riff on High Pressure Low, even if the guitar tone is whack. I think that's a great song. Spanish Moss, again, is so much fun. And Rapid Decompression is, is basically a cut off of As the Eternal Cowboy if it was produced worse somehow. And I think it's a lot of fun. And Bamboo Bones just rip out my heart and spit on it, Laura. Why don't you just...
Knowing that Laura was a closeted trans woman at the time of writing that song just makes
yeah.
so much better.
We're not going to get into that, because I must remain steely-faced. Yeah, I love this album a whole lot. It is my second favorite of theirs, despite the just production that is so bad. I respect
that a lot.
It's an album that I can't even begin to be objective with, because it means a whole lot more to me than the sum of its flaws.
I don't think you should be objective about music anyway. So
no, that's a waste of time.
Yeah. We should try to just not use that word in general.
If you like an album just because of its personal connection to you, then that is a better album to you.
Yep.
So fuck it.
Yeah, if it doesn't stop you from listening to it, then what the fuck ever, man.
So, yeah, that's pretty much the end of my spiel. I love this album front to back.
Absolutely.
I will continue because my opinion is basically the same. I In fact, I actually have a small anecdote about this album that two of you are aware and were present for.
Yeah.
That
I remember
being,
this.
I listened to Transgender Dysphoria Blues first, and kind of like the Everything record Get to Heaven, when I started listening to that, I was like, boy, I can't wait to check out the rest of this band, and then didn't for like 5 months because I just kept listening to the same album. So I, at the time
5
of
months,
last...
5 years.
Well,
How much time
at the
between
time
podcasts
in, I
against
believe it was August, not the podcast member of the month, when Saoirse came to the United States and stayed at my house and stayed at Morgan's. And Davey, our also Twitter friend and supporter of this podcast, I was about to say God rest his soul as a joke, but he's alive. God rest his soul.
Very much. We all got very drunk and watched the Cabin Fever remake.
Well,
It was
yeah,
a
we
good time.
did. But one of my most, I have two very fond musical memories from that experience. The first of which was when you, me, and Morgan drove at night and turned down all the windows in Morgan's car and blasted "Heroes" by David Bowie. And we were just screaming, and it was the best thing that has ever happened to me, and it was the single happiest moment of like my life ever. And I'm not exaggerating at all when I say that.
Huh?
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yep. And the other one was when Morgan put on I Was a Teenage Anarchist when we were driving just through our neighborhood, and we just drove like around the block to hear the song in its completion instead of stopping.
I do that all
And
the
we
time.
were like, yeah, right? Like we weren't like, I had never heard another Against Me song that wasn't on Transgender Dysphoria Blues. Boy, that's a mouthful, huh? But that was the first time, and once those lyrics were driven into my head, I could not get them out, and that is one of like my favorite songs. I love it, and I could say that about almost this whole album. I think it's some of their best and most importantly hookiest songwriting. There is just like it is so infectious and so anthemic, and that's part of the reason why I agree with you about the production. It's just that at the same time, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. Not at all. And that, see, it's polished, but it's energetic and overblown in a way that adds to its anthemicness. And I like that a lot. Like my favorite Green Day album's American Idiot. Of course, that's what I like in things. But like, and not to mention, this album, it's fun. That is the best endorsement I can give to it. It's fun from front to back. This is slightly less than like 40 minutes long, and it never, for a single solitary moment, threatens on being boring for me. It is just so consistently fun, and I'm having a great time, and I want to scream every lyric I know. And it feels, it's, even on songs like Because of the Shame, which I do agree that the production probably hurts that song more than it helps it. It's such a full sound. It's such a large fucking mix, and it just hits you like a freight train. And you can feel, I think, on a thematic level, this is easily, in my opinion at least, their least jaded record. And I think that's because we're building up to Transgender Dysphoria Blues. I feel like Laura had come off the back of, like, again, I don't know if this is the case because I don't know anything about her life, but just from the music, it feels like the last two albums were a result of a shitty time. Like, quality notwithstanding, those are albums that you only make if you are bitter and cynical and sad. And it happens. And White Crosses, on the other hand, while it does touch on emotional darkness quite frequently, it does so with a bravura. It does so with enthusiasm, and it's more about overcoming than it is experiencing. And I love that. And I feel like this is Laura coming into her own, especially with her own identity. I feel like she is building herself up because she knows how much of a trial this is going to be on her, and then the trial is.
Comment on that if you want. Against Me was still a very not fun band to be a part of at this time, and Laura was a very not fun person to exist as. Like her life just wasn't very fun at this point. And it was going to get a lot worse before it got better. But it's unavoidable through the timeline, through the lyrics, through everything, that it was just becoming an inevitable reality that this is who she was. And she was just, in the words of Pretty Girls, there are some truths you're going to have to learn to confront. So that's probably where that's coming from.
I think that it still creates an interesting narrative arc with their albums nonetheless, and it feels like you are on the verge of something brighter, the verge of change, and I feel like that's really embodied by the final song. This is also just generally speaking, this is my most listened to Against Me album, even after I spun Transgender Dysphoria Blues so much. This is my casual Against Me album that I just come back to. It's kind of like a comfort album in a weird way, I think, just because of how pop punky it is. And it also, to me at least, is sort of a sea change, I think, where the music is... I feel like they start off having music that's a little bit more holistic of an experience of a sect of society, a type of person, and it's embodying that. And I feel like we're kind of, with every record, we're sort of closing in onto Transgender Dysphoria Blues as being like a really intimate and personal thing that like everything in their albums before this just contextualizes. And this is like the most personal we have thus far. It feels very experiential. It feels like every single song comes from a hint of truth that has been experienced and filtered through Laura specifically, I suppose. And to me at least, that's what makes this so inspirational. I love how just enthusiastic this album feels. It's passionate, it's loud, it's fucking like I could scream the entire thing just because it's so it's just really good. And I love it very, very, very much. It's not even my favorite or even my second favorite record of theirs, but that just goes to show how much I love this band and how great I think they are. But I think this is a terrific album that is quite frequently apparently very maligned online. But yeah, I love it to pieces.
I know that Mr. Melon Man is not a fan.
We gave Dysphoria Blues like a 5.
Yeah, and we gave it a 6, I think. Maybe like 5. I don't know. But basically, in his review of that, he was just like, and it is very much slagged off White Crosses, I think.
It's because he doesn't pay attention to lyrics ever.
I was hoping we could go and bringing him up, but we've done that now.
Go on, Tyler. Go on.
I don't dislike this record. I want to make that clear from the start. I obviously I said I think that New Wave is their worst album, and I stand by that. I don't think it's close. That said, this is my second least favorite Against Me album. And I think
True wild card.
I think it's their most inconsistent record, in the sense that it has basically an equal number of great songs and songs I just don't care for. Nothing outright bad, although there are a couple of songs that are close, but it's just really an equal number of songs I like and songs I don't care for. And it's like there are moments on this record, like multiple, where I can totally feel what Jake is getting at in his review. I can feel that passion, that emotion. But there are like so many moments where it just doesn't feel fun to me at all, where it feels really frustrating. And the thing is, like, approaching this in the context of the discography, having already heard Transgender Dysphoria Blues, like, it's just like you want to get to that record because you can feel like that. You can feel that this is like the band are kind of at a point where it's almost like a crossroads. It's almost like they're, I don't want to say running out of ideas at this point, because there are some great songs on this, but like something needs to, this is a record when I listen to it, I'm like, something needs to change. Like, and then it does beautifully, amazingly. There's this cathartic release on Transgender Dysphoria Blues that I can't wait to talk about. But let's be fair to this record and I'm break it down. I agree the production sucks. Shit, bad production. Butch Vig sucks. He's a turd. I don't like him. I don't like his family. I don't like his stupid face.
I don't like his
I don't know where that came from.
I want him dead. I want his family.
Alma.
That's what I was trying to. That's what was in my head, I think. Anyway.
Untouchables, good film.
Anyway, it's not a Butch Vig album. It's an Against.
Why did you say
Isn't
it
it a
like
Butch Vig
that?
album, though?
A
Isn't it
Butch Vig
album?
album.
It's an Against Me album, and it's
Thank you, Alan Rickman.
To me, this,
Rig album,
Stranger.
Against Me album.
this is also the band in their least compelling
I
instrumental
am.
mode, which
I
is
am the half-blood fig.
which is pure alt rock verging on power pop at times. Still, Laura couldn't write like a bad set of lyrics if she tried. I don't think. There is. I like the vivid imagery that captures a disorganized mindset on the title track. I think that's quite effective, even if it is a bit unconventional. So I like that song quite a bit. I Was a Teenage Anarchist is a great song, signature track for the band. Instrumentally, not one of their most like wowing songs, but like the vocal performances is surging and the lyricism is fantastic, incredibly smart, self-aware, just a really good song overall. Really dig it. Because of the Shame is a colorful power pop banger with pianos, and this, I think I mentioned in our group chat yesterday, I made a comparison between this album and the Hold Steady's album Boys and Girls in America, which I think kind of channels some of the sonic elements of this record, but is a considerably better album in my opinion, in the sense that because they're like a heartland rock piano sort of pub rock band, and their kind of energy I think is channeled on Because of the Shame quite well, even if it's definitely like a distinctly an Against Me song. It's not like them copying anyone or anything. That's not what I'm trying to say, but it reminded me of that. I think Suffocation is instrumentally also pretty strong, although the hook in the song is kind of eye-rolling, but the verses have some great striking imageries which counterbalances it well enough. That said, this is kind of the point at which the record drops off for me considerably, with a couple of exceptions. There are songs that just kind of plod, with songwriting that does little to jump out and production that's dull enough to remove any edge to the point that the tracks sound kind of like bland music. I'm specifically referring to We're Breaking Up, which is utterly forgettable, and High Pressure Low, which is aggravating in its averageness. That said, I also don't what's the song called? I don't massively care for Spanish Moss either, but I like it better than those two songs. A song I do really love though is Ache With Me, an acoustically driven ballad. I think it fares much better at this point in the record than the other songs around it. It has some poignant and affecting writing that helps to the song to serve as more of a generalized continuation of some of the feelings on Teenage Anarchist, reflecting on the defeat and the malaise of an empty adulthood. It's kind of, in a sense, like Teenage Anarchist is the kind of important song of the record, but for me, kind of like the heart of this record, I think, like the core of it is in Ache With Me. It's an easy standout for me. I love the rattling electric guitar that penetrates the smooth mix during the chorus. It's a really nice contrast. Just so much. I just love the song to bits. The urgent thrash of rapid decompression is really needed, I think, to spice up the second half, although I don't think it's a great song. And then the album ends with, again, it's like New Wave. The song is lyrically amazing. I'm talking about Bamboo Bones. Lyrically just incredible. And instrumentally, it does kind of have a bit of a sprightly kick to it, but it's just not all that like musically compelling, I'm sorry to say. But lyrically amazing.
Not all that musically compelling. Get out of my home.
You're right. You're right. And this is why I am the only one that doesn't have a fucking album or an EP. Because you're right. I'm not musically compelling.
This is not a literal thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
fuck you.
Audiobook on Bandcamp. It's still impressive.
But yes. Yeah, so like it's at the end of the day, it's just frustrating. My feelings are just frustratingly mixed. I want the songs I really like here. I really like the songs I don't care for are just a slog to get through. Nothing is outright bad as the worst moments of New Wave, but it's just like, for me, when people say, like, when you guys say this is like a big step up from New Wave, I just don't really hear it. Like, I'm sorry that I don't. And I think a lot of it just comes down to how bland it sounds, courtesy of Mr. Vig. And yeah, like I will say it got better the second time I listened to this album. I liked it more the second time than the first time. Maybe I will continue to enjoy, since Jake has said it's the one he's listened to the most, so that makes me feel that maybe this might be worth spending a bit more time with, in particular this album. So yeah, but at the moment, like I think it's the one where I'm the most mixed of all of the Against Me albums.
Yeah, and I will say when I first listened to it, I was much closer to your take on it than I am now. This
Right.
is this is a process that has been going for years.
Yeah.
Like
But
I
the-
said, your evolution is pivotal to your opinions on these albums.
And what's important to that is if you feel compelled to come back to this record at all.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't, then
Yeah, it's like you guys compel me to go back to records, hearing you talk about them, and that's very true here. So I will listen to this again.
word.
I would like to point out before we go to ratings that Tyler at one point pointed out his favorite Against Me lyric. That appears on this album for me, which is on Bamboo Bones, which is the simple, what God doesn't give to you, you have to take it for yourself. Which
Right. Yeah. Much
I
like
could
my
not
favorite lyric, it's
agree
also
more.
the closing lyric of the album. So it's like they really know how to like
and is like
end on
that is this band as a whole.
Yeah, God, that line. As a trans person, the whole just I'm gonna cry. Let's move on.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
beautiful lyric.
That's-
Some problems.
Okay.
Ratings.
Anyway, ratings. Who wants to go first?
Fun album.
Yeah, why don't you go
Do
first?
you want to go first?
I'm gonna say my favorite track is Bamboo Bones, followed very closely by I Was a Teenage Anarchist, and in third place we have Ache With Me, and I am just so upset that I left off like at least 2 essential songs on this album, but that's fine. My least favorite song is Spanish Moss, I guess. I like that song a lot. It's fun. I don't care. That being said, my score is a very, very hearty 8.5 out of 10.
Ooh, okay. What about you, Morgan?
Righty. Gee, because this is difficult for my favorite tracks because the first 2 are Bamboo Bones and Ache With Me, and those 2 are resolute. The third is a little more difficult. Oh fuck. I'm gonna say Spanish Moss because I like that song a lot. But it really just ask me tomorrow and it'll probably be fucking High Pressure Low or something. I don't know. My least favorite is Gun to My Head, Suffocation, but I still really like that song. And this, I want to give this 10 so bad, but it sounds like doo-doo, so I'm gonna have to give it a 9.5.
That's fair enough.
Admirable restraint.
Yeah.
I am not giving it that.
Yeah. No one else is.
My favorite tracks are I'm a Teenage Anarchist, Ache With Me, and Bamboo Bones. My least favorite. Yeah, you have good taste, Jake. What can I say?
You too. Oh my God.
Thank you. My least favorite track is Spanish Moss. I was going to give this a 6, but I'm not going to anymore because I realised the last 4 tracks aren't part of the record. So I'm bumping it up to 7.5.
Thank you, dear.
Quite a bumper.
You're welcome. Well, it's 4 tracks that aren't on it anymore.
Yeah.
And Against Me albums are 3 seconds long, so you know that's pretty
So my 3
indicative.
favorite tracks are Ache With Me, I Was a Teenage Anarchist, and just going to shout out Because of the Shame, because I do really like that song. And my least favorite track is High Pressure Low. Sorry, Morgan. And I'm going to give the album, I feel really mean now because this is like much lower than this. But I'm going to give it 5.5.
Stand by your guns, Tyler. Okay. Got the standard deviations going be whack.
I don't know what the
Well-
hell you're talking about, man, but hell yeah, live your truth.
But, like, we're all
Well,
gonna,
Tyler is I'm canceling Tyler on Twitter.
You can uncancel me when we talk about the next album.
That's fair. Right. So
Get it
between
trending.
this
Hashtag
and the-
cancel Tyler.
Did you actually fucking tweet that? You little
People
shit.
think you're talking about Tyler, the creator.
Probably.
So, between this record and the next record, they released one of their non-album singles of like off tracks. It's called Russian Spies and Occult Enemies. It is fine. It's nowhere near essential. It's fine. And then Laura came out as trans in a Rolling Stone article. And music like lost its mind for a couple of weeks. Before then, she had already been working on a concept album with The Boys about a transgender sex worker.
I'll be back in a moment.
That's fine. Okay. Yeah. So like James, the guitarist, speaks about how it's kind of weird that Laura, before she came out, was writing songs with like the F slur in it and stuff like that. I thought the concept was a bit weird. When she came out, he didn't really have a problem. He was like, a lot of stuff makes sense now, which is the correct response. But two
I
members
think
of
everyone
the band
can have
left.
that moment of realization where they find out their own or someone else's gender identity is different from what they thought, and then they just think and go, oh, because I know I've certainly had that moment.
Yeah, I can't remember why, but two of the band members left in this time. I think maybe just like the band was just too chaotic for them to really be around. I think it's probably nothing to do with bigotry. But yeah, so it was just Laura and James for a while. And Laura built her own studio to record this album in because she had left her label and had nowhere to really record music. She produced this album herself. And halfway through production, the studio flooded. They didn't even have a bassist or a drummer.
Mars Volta type beat.
So yeah, this album was fucking hell to make. Maybe worse than Searching for a Form of Clarity, but I don't know. At the same time, because the transition, her new second marriage was rocky. They moved to Chicago because the wife really wanted to, and Laura wanted to appease her wife to try and make it work. But ultimately, they still divorced, quote unquote. I'm just not attracted to women, was her wife's words.
I guess that's not the worst response you could get.
Yeah. In fact, if you listen to Laura's solo album, there's a song, I Hate Chicago, which is basically about this divorce. Yeah, so this record was very, very hard to make. They brought in Inga, whose surname I can't remember, and Atom Willard to finish off the bass and drums. They had already got tracking on bass and drums from their previous bassist and drummer. So even though I think the drumming on this record is amazing, and I think Atom is an amazing drummer, I can't credit anything to him, so I don't know what is his. I think where his drumming really comes through is on the live album that we're going to talk about later. But yeah, I'm going to use another prop now. Forgive me. This lovely boy, poor girl,
Shock.
this thing.
Oh.
He prefers they, them pronouns.
Titty.
Tips out or GTFO. Anyway, this is such an important album to me. The amount of times I've cried listening to this album is more than two hands worth, I would say. It just captures the trans experience so beautifully, even if it's not directly about Laura and it's a concept album about a character. I think there are moments on the record that just really capture this experience. I would like to highlight, because I've heard members of this chat slag this song off, I'd like to highlight Drinking with the Jocks as
It's not a bad song.
an experience I have felt so deeply, of just being a closeted trans person, male presenting, and being around men who are just being horribly toxically masculine and misogynistic and very sexually voyeuristic and just feeling atted in a way you can't express, you know?
Yeah.
And this approaches that kind of lad culture with such anger that I relate to so much. There's a song, Osama bin Laden as a Crucified Christ, which frames transphobia with the same amount of anger as like the murder of Mussolini. Like, what's the best thing you can hope for? Pity fucks and table scraps. No, pity fucks and a ball gag is the line, which juxtaposes this with not only Mussolini's death. You're going to hang like Benito on the SO rafters, hang like Carla with the skull caved in, referring to Benito Mussolini and his wife, who were hung by the feet from an Esso petrol station upon the revolt in Italy. And of course, it refers to Osama bin Laden. Look what happened to him by the American establishment. Not that I'm condoning his actions or Mussolini's. It's just an interesting comparison. Yeah, I'm going to get on to the obvious ones later. Don't worry. And yeah, Paralytic State has this amazing line where the character cuts her own face and pumps her lips up, exaggerated, a fucked up kind of feminine. It's touching on themes of body degradation, bodily change, cutting yourself up for the sake of aesthetic, and the idea that somehow the femininity you're chasing is or will be perceived as a violation of some kind. Of a bodily mutilation, which isn't something I think is true, but it's something people tell you as a trans person a lot, and it's something you do internalize. And I think, in a way, internalized transphobia is the general theme of this record more than anything else. In a way that the next record is about the trans experience, in a way that isn't that at all. Yeah, I just think this record is very, very brave. I think songs like Transgender, Dysphoria Blues, with lines like "they hold their breath not to catch the sick," which gets referenced on the next album where Laura says, "Thank Christ I'm not contagious." Oh Lord. And the record is so angry. That song specifically is so angry. I think the musical revelation of this album is that the sort of cock rock alternative rock elements that were coming through the last two records are here, but they're transformed into a kind of blues rock where that works in a way it doesn't on the previous two albums, in my opinion. You know, internalized transphobia, you've got no cunt in your strut, you've got no hips to shake. This is a record about accepting who you are by hook or by crook and not dragging anyone else. It's a purely self journey. It's a journey of the self. It is a record about dragging your own personhood, kicking and screaming into the truth. That's a beautiful experience, but it's a hard one. It's a painful one. It's one I'm about to go through. Can't wait. But I know what that's like just from recognizing my own self. I have tried to identify so many other things as a trans person. I try to look under rocks for things to call myself. There's a song, Unconditional Love. Even if your love was unconditional, on that record, on that song, it's got this wonderful sort of bluesy vibe to it. It's got like it's obviously going to the E to A, and it's a delayed thing. Like the whole record, it's got this amazingly fun flow for dark shit, where it's like having read knowing what Laura's life has been like for the last 3 records worth of time. One's from yourself. If you have this dark secret in you, just I can see it in Laura's story in the book. I can see it in my life. True Trans So Rebel. It's a song that makes me want to punch the air. It's an amazingly good choice for a second track. Because yeah, the first song is fucking dark and it's about internalized transphobia, but the second song is like, okay, so the album's about that, but it's also about this. Now, being trans is this really great experience sometimes where when you feel that gender euphoria, it is the best feeling on the planet. And I concur, good woman, lady, ma'am, Laura, where it's like, yes, it's got darkness to it. It's got a feeling of loneliness to it. It's got a feeling of, yeah, walking the streets all alone is going to take you home tonight. But it's got such a feeling of joy. There's a video online of an acoustic rendition featuring Miley Cyrus and Joan Jett that I recommend you seek out. Fuck My Life 666 is a breakup song. Doesn't really fit with the narrative of the album much. But it does address themes of being trans, silicon chest and collagen lips, how do you even recognize me? In the book, Laura says it's a song to her ex-wife. You can see that. The ease of your pose, the grace of your silhouette. Thank you. It's just, it's a song about a centrally trans experience of like, do I like you, or do I want to be you? Do you know what I mean? But it's also a beautiful love song. In a way, the next album is full of like amazing trans love songs. Great album title. I should use that.
69 trans
Yeah.
love
Oh, you
songs.
stole my bit, Morgan. I was about to say that.
Dead Friend and Two Coffins. Mosquitoes are two songs that Melon Man hated because he thinks they should be more stripped back. I get it. You're wrong.
Again, like, let's, not sully our tongues here.
Okay, that's fine. But I get it. I do get it. I can see that perspective, but I don't feel it. With Dead Friend, I think what the instrumentation there does, just what punk has always done so well, and what I like most about punk music, it's addressing this very dark, very grief-stricken thing, but it is still a fundamentally joyous experience. It says, yes, my friend is dead, but this is still going to be a song that you can rock out to. This person wouldn't want us to write a mopey song now, would he, if this is the life we're describing him having?
Yeah. Also, Long Live the Queen by Frank Turner vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Same energy.
This is not product placement. Anyway, and Two Coffins, which I understand the wanting for that to be more stripped back.
Oh, fuck
the use
anyone
of
who
those
sees
big background symbols.
About that song. Fuck it.
I
love
that.
Concur.
The big crashing cymbals and the big reverb. I can see someone thinking it makes it less intimate. I don't think it does, but I can see someone thinking that. But for me, it makes it more haunting. And just, yeah. And for a song written to someone's daughter, oof. And, to quote I, Tonya, this is the moment you've all been waiting for, folks. Time to talk about Black Me Out, which is, it's a top 10 song of all time for me. It is a song of wanting to leave your past self behind and embrace your new self, but realizing that is always going to be a part of you, but the response to that is wanting to just end it all, black me out. But at the same time, the song doesn't feel like that. The song feels like a song that says, what we are blacking out is this old person, but I'm not that person. I am this other new person. And I understand in the narrative of the story, it is that first interpretation, but it's evidently not actually that, if you take it by itself. There's this video of them playing it for the first time live. Laura hadn't told anyone that she was going to play it. She hadn't even come out yet. It was at a midnight New Year's Eve gig. She hadn't told anyone else she was going to play it, and she played it at midnight. And that video is online, and it's transcendent. She hadn't even shown the song to her bandmates. And it's just, the riff is amazing. It makes you want to headbang and punch the air and cry and run away in a hole, but jump in the streets for joy all at the same time. And it's one of the best songs ever written. All the Young Grays filled Don't the best die out so bright and so fast. I think I got that right. Don't the best all burn out so bright and so fast. Full body high, I'm never coming down. Just that's gender euphoria. It's a full body high. That's what it feels like. And I wish I never had to come down. So black me out. I didn't write any of that down beforehand. That was all off the
That was beautiful.
cuff.
That was incredible.
No, that was great.
Steely faced.
Who wants who wants to go next?
Who's the most composed right
No,
now?
it's not me. It's really not me.
I'll go next. I've got notes anyway, so I can keep it like to the script. This is an amazing album. It's like a rare case of a record where like I don't think all the songs are great, but like so many of them are so great that it's just stupid. Like
Yep.
Yeah.
the title track, I look fuck the normie opinion, like it is their best song in my opinion.
Yes.
Not unfair.
It was, in fairness, it was the first song by them that I ever heard, but like I heard this album when it came out in January of 2014. I loved it. I loved the song especially for reasons that I couldn't even like properly fathom or understand at the time. I listened to it heaps and heaps and heaps. Then there were probably like 2 or 3 years maybe when I didn't listen to this album. But like even coming back to this album after like years of not hearing it, I still knew every fucking second of this song. It's just such a perfect piece of music.
Yeah.
Laura's vocal performance and the fire here are just unparalleled. And the band are playing like some of their best melodies ever. Like it's a fiery, triumphant, exuberant, exhilarating return to form. It just takes my fucking breath away. And it only continues from there with the equally thrilling and personal True Trans Soul Rebel, which honestly just makes me cry like a bitch every time I listen to it. The sheer catharsis
Oh God.
of Laura's exaltations in these first 2 songs is some of the most palpably cathartic, tangible emotion that I've ever heard or felt in any music ever. These 2 songs, I mean the record as a whole, but these 2 songs especially are like the sunlight coming through like in a room that's been blacked out. I'm making this part up as I go along, but like the feeling of arrival here is just overwhelmingly immense. Like it's just like, I mean, especially going back through this discography and listening to these records in order, it was even more of a gut punch to get to this. Like, holy shit, is it so satisfying to get to this and to like have this like euphoric, like Laura, like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it just feels so good. This is a record that is a lifetime in the making, and that the record doesn't always reach the heights of those 2 songs. It's not as much a complaint as to be expected. These 2 songs contain such essential feeling, conveyed with such beautiful simplicity that they don't need anything else. That said, even though I'm not like as massive on the next 4 songs, I will stand up for Drinking with the Jocks, which I think is an unsubtle punk rager that excoriates a particular brand of toxic masculinity. It's not like a subtle song, but like it doesn't need to be. It's great. For me though, the record really like hits that stride of the first 2 songs again on the last 4 songs, Dead Friend through Black Me Out, which are 4 perfect songs. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about them. I don't know. I kind of struggle with notes because they were just like so, like Dead Friend and 2 Coffins are just like so direct and so gut punching and so like beautiful, and like you just have to listen to them really to like there's no like way to adequately describe the feelings that they create. Like Paralytic States, like the first two tracks, is a brilliant fusion of the subtler, affecting personal storytelling with the raucous instrumental energy that the band are known for. I love that song. Real standout. And then Closer Black Me Out. I mean, I couldn't approach how beautifully Saoirse described that song. But it roils with the angry energy of the band's best songs, and it's another kind of piece of just bitter catharsis that ends the record on this blunt and beautiful note, and it's just so it's so good. Yeah, I wish now that I had actually spent more time trying to write like about, because it deserves better than my like stuttering recitation of these disconnected notes.
You're doing great.
It's so good. It's so good.
Anyone-
The fact that it's not even my favorite Against Me album is not like saying anything negative about the record itself. It's a testament to the band. Like the highs on this record are like, there's no high like them.
Yeah, I think if you meet someone who can get through this record like completely without emotion and without kind of stumbling over themselves, they've not interacted with the record the right
Totally.
way.
Totally.
Because it's such a it leaves me at a loss for words every single time. I first heard this album at the recommendation of Crash Thompson, who we've talked about on this channel some before, in early 2014 or maybe early 2015, because it must have been because it was his year roundup list, but I had heard the album before. But his review of the album was what really made me pay attention to it and kind of latch onto it. And ever since then, it has been comfortably in my top 30 albums of all time, if not in my top 20 or top 10 even at one point, probably. And in the 6 years since that, it hasn't left those spots at all, even if its specific spot has varied on that over different points of time. It's one of those albums that I think if you can engage with the kind of person that Laura Jane Grace is, it's one of those albums that just immediately makes you feel the most seen you've ever felt. And it's just like it's holding up a mirror so perfectly to being this kind of person that it feels like it was made for you. And as such, the emotional reaction is so strong that it kind of becomes difficult or even like me, impossible to talk about in depth. I can hardly think about Paralytic States without,
Yeah.
falling apart. I've never heard anything that captures the kind of loneliness that being an outsider of any kind has translated so well as that song, and it tears me up every single time I hear it. And following that with Black Me Out, the resolution of that narrative, I think, of just acceptance and acknowledgement, it's fantastic. And those two aren't even my favorite songs on the album. They're certainly, Paralytic States is definitely in my top 3, but Fuck My Life 666 is my favorite on the album, and comfortably my second favorite of the bands in general. I think that's, if not the best outright, whatever that means, it's easily my favorite set of lyrics that Laura's ever written. even just the first two lines, the ease of your pose and the grace of your silhouette. Uh, I mean, it's indescribable. It just directly, so directly and tactfully and beautifully expresses wanting to be someone else. And I mean, just this isn't even an album that directly will relate to you from the transgender experience, which, no bones about it. That is directly what it's about. But it's written so well that if you've ever wanted to be someone else or been an outsider or maligned in any walk of life, this album should touch you in some way. I will say that even though Drinking with the Jocks is my least favorite track on the album, that is not to say it's bad at all. I just think compared to the powerhouse that is pretty much everything else on the album, it does kind of end up falling by the wayside. I still think that's a pretty great song. It's not one of my favorite ragers of theirs, but I do like it a fair bit. Yeah, anything in depth that I could share has been shared better and more coherently by Saoirse than I ever could, and I would just be sitting in a puddle of emotion by the time I was done with it anyway. So, yeah, this is one of the most important records I've ever heard in my life. One of my favorites of all time. I am a fan. Thank you.
That's lovely.
Well said, man.
Right. So that leaves my good friend Jake.
Okay.
Are you okay, my friend?
Well, who
I
is?
didn't write anything down just because I mean, first and foremost, I can't. It's, as touched on by everyone here, it is an album that I would classify as being transcendent in its sheer emotional vulnerability and simultaneous bravery. I can't personally undersell how important of a record this is to me personally. I remember the first time I listened to it, it was one of the most vivid recollections of first hearing a record that I can conjure up in my head. And it was the album that at least helped me realize and encouraged me to come out. And I mean, that in and of itself just kind of tells you everything you need to know, just because I don't know, you can never account for a path of life that you didn't take or ended up being divergent from your own, but I don't know if I would fully be the same person that I am without this record, or at least it would have delayed me becoming the person that I am, or would have relied on something else to become that person. And it's mind-blowing to me that a singular piece of work can have that profound effect on you. Just it is a colossal testament to the power of art and music in general, and what it is capable of. Whenever I doubt myself, or whenever art as a concept feels flimsy to base so much of your life around, as I and everyone here has, I think about this record and what it did for me and what it undoubtedly did for so many other people. And it affirms everything I want to do, everything I am doing, and everything I've done. It is so pivotally important and vital. And I can't undersell the actual quality as well, because I feel the songwriting and the general instrumentation is just
uniformly excellent. It's lean. It's a lot more stripped back than the records that it follows. But yet it still has sort of a polish about it. And I think this sort of meeting of aesthetics of sort of the sparseness of their earlier records mixed with the polish of some of their mid-career ones comes and sort of forms together as a mission statement of this album. It's sort of a greatest hits of Against Me when it comes to what this album is composed of. And I can't tell you how many times I've driven home from work and belted the chorus to True Trans Soul Rebel out as loud as I can, because I know that when I am in my car, I am alone and no one can hear me, and I can fully and unabashedly be myself without having to worry about being perceived, judged, or interacting with anyone else. And the fact that this album can coax that kind of transcendent beauty out of loneliness is spellbinding. It's an album that's as long as an episode of cable television, and it will change your life.
Yeah.
And I can't undersell how remarkably valuable that makes it. And just even as Morgan said, Drinking with the Jocks, which is probably my least favorite song on here, I still think is a much needed bridge of the record that thematically gets to something that isn't touched on and does segue to parts of the album that I do need a gap between. I need something to fill in that space, and it complements the flow. Like if it wasn't in the album would be worse. And constructed as a piece of work, I think it is as solid as anything they've ever made. And I think the first two songs, as Tyler mentioned, are stunning. It is the most just crushing weight that these songs manage to have with every single part of them. It just, you feel Eric. It is immediate, and it never ever gets old.
Mm-hmm.
And when you transition into the middle part of the record, which is a little bit more breezy, I think that's also intentional, because if I just had an album's worth of the first two songs repeating themselves over and over again, quality notwithstanding, it would be too much. I would never be able to listen to this album, like, ever. And I can scarcely listen to it now. But the final third of this album, I think, is generally one of the best stretches of punk music and music in general that I've ever heard, starting with Fuck My Life all the way to Black Me Out. And it has my favorite song by the band, and one of my favorite songs in general. I'd say this is my version of what Saoirse described Black Me Out as, and that would be Two Coffins. And I'm not sure why, because it is a song that it is immediately more low-key than the rest of the record, and I think that's why it was so immediately arresting to me. And it so beautifully gets to the heart of the yearning for human connection that you still always have, even though this record's about finding beauty in being yourself and as an individual and as a person through all the facets of your identity. There's a yearning to be that person with other people. And Two Coffins is that personified, but it also is a desire to share that with someone and accept something as heavy as your mortality alongside that. The opening lyrics, just to for slaves, our bodies will decay.
Yeah.
I wish you'd never change. It's soul crushing, but in the best way possible, because it reminds me that the doubt that I face in any facet of myself, any identity, I can accept that and I can move on because I have somebody else to do it with, because I have I have people like my podcast mates, because I don't to say I wouldn't be the same person without people like you is a gross understatement.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a testament to my connection with the things that I love and the people that I love who've gotten me here and who I know will carry me like for the rest of my life. And I can't even really say anything beyond that, can I? I mean, it's so transcendently beautiful and so viciously ugly in equal facets that it can only be called human, and for that it has my undying respect and love.
Yeah, good album.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh my god. I just want to say that literally all three of you spoke so beautifully, and I'm so grateful.
I didn't
Agreed.
I didn't cry.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
Oh god, I nearly cried so many times. I don't know if you could hear my voice breaking, but it was happening.
I'd have gotten close, but
Let-
don't tell nobody.
Let's like, while we're holding it together, favorite tracks and ratings. Let's do it.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Might do.
Why don't you
sorry.
go first?
Oh, you want to go first?
Or
Oh,
Will?
me? Hello.
You've never gone.
Okay, I'll go first. And that's true. Thank you. My favourite tracks are Shocker, Black Me Out. And then probably Shocker, the first two tracks, Transgender, Dysphoria Blues, and True Trans Soul Rebel. And then I don't have least favourite track, and if anyone makes me choose, I will murder them.
That is fair.
Yeah.
This
I
is
wonder
getting,
what she's going to rate
if I
it.
could give this more, considering I said Searching was my second favourite and I gave it a 10. Look, I wish I could give it more, but I can't. So it's getting a 10.
Trisha invents 10.5.
A hard 10 has been
Right.
discovered.
I think Morgan said he wanted to go.
I didn't, but I can. My favorite tracks are Fuck My Life 666, Paralytic States, and Two Coffins. And my least favorite is Not Available. It's my butt. And it's getting that hard 10.
We love to see it.
Goodness.
We love to
Yes,
see
we
it.
do.
Goodness me.
Right.
I'll just go next real quick because I feel like I'm probably the only person who's not going to give this a 10, even though I love it. My three favorite tracks are Transgender, Dysphoria Blues, True Trans Soul Rebel, and Two Coffins. My least favorite track, I do have a least favorite track, unfortunately. It is Unconditional Love, which is still a good song. And I'm giving the album a 9 out of 10.
All right. Well,
This is
my
Speed Phoebe Bridges.
my top three are the same as Tyler. Two Coffins, True Ring sucks, but what can you do? Least favorite is Drinking with the Jocks, because one song has to be, and
Does it?
0.5 because I have a least favorite song. Like if when I'm analyzing art or whatever, I'm just being like, oh well, this and this, and then I come up with my score in my head. But after that discussion, who gives a fuck? 10.
We love to see it. Thank you for speaking so beautifully about it, by the way, Jake. That meant to.
Yeah.
August just crashes in, just goes, it's me.
Thanks.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know about y'all. I need another drink. I'll be right back.
Go for it.
Okay.
Now we have
So-
healed.
Have we?
I've
Will we
casted
ever?
a party cure spell.
It's scabbed over. That's about it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that's fair.
And now we're going to cover the
I'm not
final
gonna-
record.
I'm not going to fare much better emotionally, by the way, just so you all know. Right, so I do just want to touch on the live album they made in between. 23 Live Sex Acts, which is a title.
Sounds pretty hot, honestly.
It is.
Yeah, the record is pretty hot. Most of the Butch Vig era songs sound light years better.
Who'd have thought?
Except for Thrash Unreal, which sounds like ass.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. But
Yeah,
I agree.
The old songs like Pint Guinness, Talking Salonis. I dig all that. I do want to touch on New Wave, though, because they stopped that song halfway through to yell at the security guard for chucking someone out who's just dancing. And then they're like, well, I think that song's about us now. Let's move on. And I think that is punk rock.
Yep.
You love to see it, honestly.
Yeah. All right, so shocker, this is a divorce record, the next one we're talking about.
Yep.
But it's not Shapeshift with Me. It's not just a divorce record, though. It's also a dating as a trans woman after a divorce record. It's a record about what it's like to go back to the dating scene for the first time as a trans person. You know, you get a whole second puberty as a trans person. So what you see here are like teenage undertone style punk pop rock songs with a more mature edge because she's older. And I fucking love it. I think there's one song I'm not so hot on. That's the opener. I respect what they're trying to do. I think it's just not really a song.
I respect your opinion, but it definitely ain't me.
Yeah, I love the opening track.
Yeah, it may not be a song, but it's good, whatever it is.
That's fair. I mean, I don't hate it. I don't think it's a bad song.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a like really bad song.
Well,
except maybe on New Wave.
There we go.
No, but I like it, and I respect what they're doing massively.
You know what I just
1203 is a wonderful.
Oh,
go on.
Just sort of an analogy, like New Wave is kind of like they're out of time, like REM's Out of Time, because it has like one of their best songs on it, like a couple of their best songs on it, and then it has Radio Song on it, which if you've heard that, if you've heard that album,
Radio Song. I love Radio Song. People do so many covers of it. Radio Song. Anyway, 1203, wonderful, breezy date song. 12 p.m. on Sunday morning. Wedding on the skirt. I don't know what I'm learning to, but I like it. And then we sort of start to see the pattern of the album, which is poppy, punky song with heavier songs. So the next one is Boyfriend, which is still one of the more poppy songs on the record. But you do see this pattern time and time again on the record, and that's fine. I love Boyfriend a lot, especially as someone who has dated extensively as a closeted trans woman. It doesn't even really need like great poetry to it when there's just like you're just treating me like a boyfriend, just some fucking boyfriend.
It's just loud and angry, and that's why it's good.
Yeah, just that on the money rage. I have felt that, but I can't say it's unfair because I'm closeted. So what do I do?
Hey, your feelings are valid. Don't tell yourself otherwise.
Thank you.
I'll fight your feelings if I have to.
That's the name of my debut album. I'll fight your feelings if I have to.
Please make it. Crash is probably their poppiest song outside of White Crosses. It's really good. It's one of their longest ones though, but I like it. I think the songwriting's immaculate. The refrain, I'm not a crash landing. It's just this idea that just because I am who I am and I've been through shit, and just because you might judge me, I am a person. I am not a mess. I'm not defined by my trauma, and I have the right to go out and fuck who I want.
Yeah,
and I think that's beautiful.
The bass line in that song is just so good.
Oh my god, it's so tasty.
Tone on this record,
Mm-hmm.
Real good.
thick bass. I
Mm.
love it.
Yeah.
That title ats me, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Best songs on the album.
Yeah, it is one of the best songs on the album. But that title, that's what Dysphoria feels like. That title. That's
I
it.
hate it.
Yeah. 333. I love the title. I love that the chorus has like two separate 333s in it, so it's collectively satanic.
You love Satan.
That's the name of my debut album.
Collectively
Satanic.
Satanic. Actually, no, that needs to be our band name. Collectively Satanic.
Yeah,
I will
that's
fight
it.
your feelings.
I will fight your feelings by collectively satanic. Should write that down.
It's
Anyway,
got a good ring to
it. Anyway, I love the chorus for the song. I think the 323 is really cleverly used. Through the idea of being collectively satanic, it basically shows that this sort of collectively reviled type of relationship with a trans woman, evil. Ugh. Sort of in a similar way to what Backwash was doing, is sort of co-opting that satanic accusation that trans people get, where, you know, just that sort of perversion of standard society, you know, co-opting that through Satanism to define the trans experience. What 333 does with that is it's like you and me are each a separate 333, and together in this relationship we are the 666. But that is also a liberating feeling in a similar way to what a lot of like witch movies do, is it's like we are joining the crew that has been defined by society to be outsiders, and that's good. That's a good thing, even if they are like witches and Satanists and all that. Big Robert Eggers, the witch energy. And then Haunting Haunted Haunt, a barn burner of a punk song about sort of moving past your past life. I'm going to try to do less of a track by track thing, but I just want to highlight Dead Rats Norse Truth as one group with sort of delicate and petite things. When Dead Rats breaks into the outro with a Dead Rats, it's just outstandingly energetic and high octane. And I love Norse Truth. It's like she's almost rapping on it.
Yeah.
Love that.
And it's
Awesome.
With me.
It's got this like
What do you got to lose?
thick bass line. Shapeshift with me. Oh God, it is like conjuring up a potion to put a hex on the moon.
Saoirse is the baby witch who hexed the moon.
I wish I was that crazy sometimes. I feel like I'd have a lot less to worry about.
This year, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
Luna Love good that shit up.
That is what the song feels like. I want to highlight Rebecca, which
Ugh.
is like an undertonesy punk pop relationship song, but my God, does it
so
go?
good.
Like, does it just go? I know you guys aren't a fan of Suicide Bomber, but I am. Just the line, "You've been making miles in my prison cell mine." Just poetic, and it describes love beautifully, in my opinion. Especially love when you're in a state where you're fucking miserable most of the time. It's just like, you are making this hell I live in bearable. Thank you. Strap me tight to your chest, explode me like a suicide bomber. Describes the joyous elation of a romantic attachment as being simultaneously a self-destructive act as you are together in collision. And I could spend a while writing an essay about why I think that's beautiful, but I'm not going to. And I love the bass intro and all this and more. It's really hard to do in like a standard pop punk rock song, sort of like a multiple string bass riff, like in such a catchy way, and it does that really well. I think it is one of the slighter songs on the record, but I think it's a fine outro. It's not their best, but it's a fine outro. I'm going to stop there. I think this is a great record. I think it's up there with the best. It's not the best, but I love every song on the record, and that's the highest compliment I can pay it.
Word.
Okay, I might go next. So I like this record. it is like a weird case of inconsistency though for me. Like, whereas with White Crosses, it was a record where like some of it I absolutely loved and some of it I really didn't care for. This is a record where it's like some songs I like quite a bit, some songs I like a little bit. There's nothing I don't care for, and there's very little that I really love. So it's weirdly in the middle there. Like, it's a good album. It just, I feel like all their other albums have these like real standout highs that this one just doesn't quite have, although there are a few really, really good songs. I will shout out, I think Rebecca's an amazing song, actually. It's an urgent and captivating song about infatuation. It's beautiful. It's compelling. I also
I just want to kiss you in the skull. Sorry.
yeah, and I really like 333 as well. Saoirse broke that song down brilliantly, I think. Great song. I also want to shout out Norse Truth as well, which I think is this perfect stream of consciousness vocal delivery, very refreshing for the band without sacrificing any of their urgency either. And Dead Rats is also quite a memorable song and a strong song that expresses some really relatable sentiments about struggling with trust issues and self-perception in the context of an intimate relationship. Yeah, so like I don't really have anything negative to say. Like, I mean, I guess in a sense it kind of feels like it's instrumentally it treads water a little bit after Transgender Dysphoria Blues. It doesn't have that kind of instant classic songwriting feel, and I guess in a sense you could say it's, I mean, this is maybe a bit harsh, but it's almost like kind of the sophomore slump to that album's like rebirth. But maybe that's doing it a disservice because there are songs I like here. I think 1203 instrumentally and melodically rips off True Trans Soul Rebel, kind of. It's very similar sounding.
I can see it, kind of.
But I mean, it's still good. It's still, I still.
There are worse things in this world.
I mean, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I guess I just would have loved to have heard some like urgency and something original and urgent from the band following that rebirth. But look, I'm not going to be too picky. Boyfriend's another really, really good song. The record hits a real stride with Delicate Petite, and yeah, like I need this is another record like White Crosses. Like those are the two records. These are the two records where I really think I need to spend a little bit more time with them because I don't particularly have like really strong feelings. I like this one more definitely, but I don't have really very much to say about it. So I feel like that's an issue with me, not necessarily with the album, maybe. But it is good. It's like one of those weird cases where like an album is pretty good, so you don't have that much to say about it.
Sure.
But I don't want it to come across as negativity because I do like the album.
Yeah. Can I just say a couple of things I forgot to say, if that's all right?
Please do.
So, like, part of why I really love this record, and I do really love it, is because this is the first Against Me record for a long time where it feels like it was fun to make.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're like me and you're invested in Laura's narrative, and I normally hate this about critiquing music, but I can't help it. That is incredibly rewarding for me personally. And also just like, it's a good time of a record. Like, this is probably the first time in a long time Against Me was a fun band to be a part of. Like, I've read the book that stops after Transgender Dysphoria Blues. So I have no idea what it was like to make this record, but the record ends on a note that it is fun to be in Against Me now, which is great. And I think that really comes through in the record. And I just want to say about 333, I also really love the first verse, where it's just feeling like I need to fall down some stairs. Maybe like face down in the river and float. Perfect weather for a head wound. Or studying sophisticated nuances of putting holes in your lungs. Just that's a mood some days.
I wrote back when I was trying to write song lyrics many years ago. I was writing this song and I got through the first verse of it before realizing that it was just a rewording of 333. So just like, oh damn it, this is the same.
Yeah.
That's how good that song is. I was stealing from it without even knowing.
It is just an amazing first verse because it's just like, yes, I do feel like that some days, but this is fun to listen to. Makes you want to think about it more, and I think it rewards thinking about more.
Yeah, this is definitely a record that has gotten better in my eyes as time has gone on, even though I did like it at the start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since I'm already talking, I might as well go
Do it.
ahead.
Do it.
Yeah, I think after Transgender, Dysphoria Blues, and how amazing that album is, you kind of approach whatever they follow it up with some trepidation. And it's just, this is a wholly different record from that to begin with. So it's already kind of throwing you for a loop, I think. But I remember the day that 333 was released as the first single. I remember turning it on and being nervous. And then the song started playing, and I was like, nah, we're good. We're good. It's good to go.
Goes.
Yep. This'll do.
I felt like that when the first single from Opposites, which was Biffy's first album after Only Revolutions dropped, and it was Black Chandelier, which is one of their best songs.
Yeah. And 333 is one of my favorite Against Me songs. So there you go. Yeah, I really, really like this album. It's easily, far and away, my favorite production on any Against Me album.
Agree.
This album is just thick and gnarly, but it's all super clear in the mix, and it sounds great. Especially the bass tones on like Dead Rats and Boyfriend and Delicate and Petite and Other Things I'll Never Be. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. The only negative thing that I have to say about it is in regards to Suicide Bomber, and it's unfortunate because I think that is a good song that has some strange, unfortunately very grating choices.
Lyrical choices?
No, not so much as just vocal delivery choices. I find the harmonized vocals on the central hook just kind of grating. I don't really enjoy it, but it's okay. Otherwise, this album is just packed full of fun, but insightful barn burners, and I can listen to it pretty much whenever.
Couldn't agree more.
I've already talked some about how good 333 is. I have jumped on Saoirse's adoration and conversely Tyler's adoration for Rebecca. The song is so good. It's just
Really
put
is.
it in my brain, put it up my butt.
Yeah, just see when the lead guitar line just explodes into your face like bukkake.
Guitar bukkake, my favorite kind.
I feel like that's a Boris album waiting to happen.
I don't feel like Laura would disapprove of that comparison either.
Oh, I wanna. There's an interesting parallel to be made to, ironically enough, Tegan and Sara, who released an album this same year, 2016, called "Love You to Death," which is my favorite of theirs. The third track on that album is titled "Boyfriend," much like the third track on "Shape Shift with Me" is titled "Boyfriend," and they are about the same thing, more or less. Boyfriend.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah. The Tegan and Sara Boyfriend is about a lesbian dating a bisexual woman who is, we're not even dating really, but like she wants to be dating them, and they're just like, you treat me like your stupid boyfriend, and I don't like it. But that song is like such a glitzy pop banger, and it's so good. While the Boyfriend on Shape Shift with Me is like, just gnarly and angry and fed up, and they're conveying these pretty much the same exact emotion through completely different, equally great lenses. And I just thought that parallel was interesting, especially considering Tegan featured on Born on the FM Waves of the Heart, and It was released the same year as each other, and they're
Right.
both the third track on their respective albums.
X-Files theme plays here.
2016, 2016 was a fucking banner year for music.
Yes, it was.
Oh god, that was the year I formally got into music, so I just went on Sputnik
Formally,
Music.
did
and
you
just,
fill out an application?
Yes, and I consumed the entire like top 50 on Sputnik Music,
Oh, wow.
and that was the most
Wow.
like my mind was fucking blown.
Look,
Wow.
as someone who's been like pretty seriously into music for most of the years of the last the last decade.
For most of the years, period.
Of the last 10 decades. 2016 is easily the best year of the last decade musically.
Screw that.
Yes.
Also, is the year where
concur.
that is home to my favorite album of all time as well. So,
What is your favorite album of all time?
Goodness by the Hotelier.
We might be talking about that at some point.
Yeah, we might be talking about two members of this podcast, one of their top 5 albums of all time.
Spoiler alert.
Anyway, Jackthony.
Well, I'm not done.
Oh, you're not done? Okay, go.
But yeah, I just wanted to summarize. I don't have a whole lot left. Yeah, I feel like following up Transgender Dysphoria Blues with anything was such a big ask that the best thing they could do is pull a Monty Python and go, and now for something completely different.
Yeah.
Which they did, and it worked wonderfully. While not one of their best albums, it's comfortably mid-tier for me. I still think it is very strong for any other band.
Yeah. And the thing is, I do think this is probably since their first record, an album that sounds like they had fun making it. And it's just like, oh, I've waited so long for that. Like,
yeah. So it's been 4 years. What are y'all doing?
Laura, we're starving.
They were touring so much. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the outro. So,
All right, Jake.
Okay, so
Jake.
I guess this will be the. Even though nobody has thought negatively of this album by any means, I don't just really like this album. I fucking love this album a lot.
And you should be allowed to do that.
And I should be allowed to do that. And part of it is because of its relationship to Transgender Dysphoria Blues. I am obsessed with artists who have discographies where they have albums that I can put into a thematic duology. Mainly this started with Opeth and their albums Damnation and Deliverance, which is an intentional one. But ever since then, I have trained myself to see if I can spot specific albums that seem to have a nexus between them, of a relationship of sorts. Another one for favorite bands of mine would be Porcupine Tree with Lightbulb Sun and Fear of a Blank Planet. I view those albums as kind of sister albums, as being not like one about one being this focused dark narrative concept album and the other being a not concept album and just generally speaking a more divergent and flowering kind of sound. And I view Shapeshift with me as, I feel like you could retitle this album Transgender Euphoria Blues, because if the last album is about dysphoria, I feel like this album is about gender euphoria. And
unquestionably.
And as a result, it makes this album so much fun and so gratifying to listen to, because after you get through Transgender Dysphoria Blues and you're just like, wow, that was a fucking gauntlet, and you just want to have fun, and you take all these themes and you filter it through a fast, exciting pop punk sound that is delivered better than it was on White Crosses, with songs that are debatably as good, if not better, than the songs on that album. And it's fucking awesome. I think this is the best produced Against Me album. I fucking, like, it is just so, it is big in all the ways that it should be, and not like the Butch Vig albums. It is a gnarly sounding album on occasion, like on Boyfriend, as previously touched upon, has these fucking gnarly guitar lines, and it's so nice. And I do sympathize with Tyler's take somewhat, that it is an album that I feel really shines as a cohesive album experience, and it doesn't exactly have songs that I come back and return to on a singular level, but as an album, as a whole piece, it feels really holistic and really easy to digest, which a lot of Against Me albums are just because they're short, but this one especially, it makes a great back-to-back listen with Transgender, Dysphoria, Blues, just because, you know, it'll get you low and then kind of pick you back up, and you feel good by the end of it, and you feel like it's a journey you've been taken on, this multifaceted exploration of this one specific topic. But like Saoirse said, it's just an album that's really fucking fun, and it sounds like it was fun, but it also has the punkier, grimier appeal that you would look for in music like this. And the vocal performances on Transgender, Dysphoria, Blues, I still think are the best. That said, this is a close second. Laura's going fucking ham on every single song here and just lets them rip, and it's great. And it's so fun and exciting and happy, and it's an album that just makes me feel good. I listen to it, and despite the fact that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, it's a lot of it is about difficulties and struggles, but like White Crosses, I think it is mostly about overcoming them. And that is why it is such a satisfying listen, and why I just genuinely love it so much, despite the fact that it's probably the Against Me album I've heard the least. But it's one that I'm just like, oh God, I need to listen to that again, because I like it more every single time I hear it, and it's great. I love it.
Good stuff.
I love
Period.
it.
Sis?
Yeah, I agree with your take so much. I feel like our ratings are going to be similar, TBH. No.
Yeah, if I
Yeah,
think
just like,
it's a weakness, it's just that it kind of ends like weekly. I think I don't really care for either of the last two.
yeah, I can see that. I mean,
Um,
I do, but I get it. I get
I
it.
also have Morgan's exact same problems with Suicide Bomber. I do think that's the weakest track on the album, and don't particularly, like, it's not bad, I just don't like it.
That's fair. I get it.
I kind of wish it
I
was.
do get it.
Tracks like TDB was, but that's a tiny.
That's fair. No, absolutely. But overall, like, when your album features Norse Truth and it's still like just a good time, you're doing something right, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Does anyone have any other thoughts?
It's good. Oh, this band is okay.
Right. Okay.
Not
Jabs and
pretty
C
sure.
order.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Do it.
All right. Favorites are Delicate, Petite, and Other Things Will Never Be, Dead Rats, and Provision. And my least favorite is Suicide Bomber. And I am going to step it up and give this shit a 9 out of 10.
I love you, Jake. I love you so
Yo.
much.
Wow.
Hell.
Right, Morgan, go.
My three favorite tracks are Rebecca, 333, and Boyfriend. And my least favorite is Suicide Bomber. And I'm feeling a strong 8 out of 10.
Okay. Right, that's
So-
me. Right.
8.
I stan Norse Truth, Boyfriend, and I'm gonna go with sod it, Rebecca. Go on. And my least favorite is Provision. Real sorry, but I'm gonna give this a 9.5.
Ooh. Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. My three favorite tracks are
It's mid.
my three favorite tracks are Rebecca, 333, and Dead Rats. My least favorite track, which I didn't get to talk about, which Saoirse described beautifully, and I love the description that she gave of what the song is about, but I just think that it sounds pretty kind of mid, and that's Crash. Sorry. But it's a good
It's
album.
fine.
It's a good album. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Nice.
See,
Okay, so that is the studio discography of Against Me. Since then, we've had a solo album from Laura, which it's pretty good. A lot of the musical directions that are taken on Shapeshift with me are taken in more idiosyncratic directions on it. I personally think it has similar problems to what we talked about with other records, which is a lot of songs are much better, are a lot better in alternate recordings than on the record, specifically the song Manic Depression, which there's a live recording that's just acres better. It's just more stripped back. I'll put a link to it in the group chat. And yeah, there's a lot of very personal tracks. There's a song she wrote with her daughter on it. But yeah, it's just not a patch on the Against Me stuff. They put out a single for some of the unreleased tracks. Stab at the Christie was one of them. It's mid as fuck. I'm glad they didn't put it on the record. Since then, we have heard very little. I mean, the solo album came out like last year, but it is the second solo album Laura's done. It's the first one under her chosen name. Laura has tweeted about working on new Against Me songs, so I think we can expect stuff very soon.
Please, punk mother, deliver us music.
Yeah. The thing is about Against Me is they are one of the last vestiges of that folk punk boom in the early 2000s. They're one of the last big ones that are still kicking. And even if they're not making that kind of music, they are carrying the ethos through. And they have come through a lot of shit, and they're coming out with probably the best lineup they have had, and putting out some of the best music. So I think they're a band who are going to go from strength to strength from here, really. Like, how can they not? But they are also, I think, carrying the flame for a kind of music that I love that isn't really getting made anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that is something incredibly worth having. So yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to say about Against Me. They are my favorite band, even if they have albums I'm not super hot on. And I think a lot of your favorite whatevers, people who make art, are going to be like that. Like you love them and they are your favorites, not just because of the music they make, but because of how beautiful they are as people, but also because when they're bad, you know how great they are because you want them to be better that much.
My second favorite band, debatably my first, it depends on which days you ask me, Opeth has not made a good album in 10 years, so...
Yeah.
Or when you revisit the first Porcupine Tree album and you're like, good golly gosh, this isn't good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say it exactly like that. Oh, shucks, Steven.
It's when they're less than great that you know how much you love them, because you know how good you want them to be. And I think they're a band doing beautiful stuff. More power to them.
Well said.
They could have just made Transgender Dysphoria Blues and they'd be one of my favorite bands, because I mean, honestly, what the fuck? How does somebody make something that good?
Rude, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, really, honestly.
Very good.
So,
absolutely.
Let's do the album ranking.
Album rankings and top 10 songs.
Yeah, let's get to it.
All right, who's gone first?
Go jams into your order. Let's go, Jake.
Sweet.
All right. My top 10 songs are, I'm going to have an honorable mention because I needed to have this as an honorable mention. And that would be my number 11, technically, is You Look Like I Need a Drink. I love that song. Number 10 is Fuck My Life 666 off of Transgender Dysphoria Blues. 9 is Cavalier Eternal off of As the Eternal Cowboy. 8 is Transgender Dysphoria Blues, the title track. 7 is Provision off of Shapeshift with Me. 6 is Delicate, Petite, and Other Things, ... that also off Shapeshift with Me. 5, Even at Our Worst, We're Still Better Than Most People. 4, I Was a Teenage Anarchist. 3, True Trained Soul Rebel. 2, Bamboo Bones. 1, Two Coffins. And my overall ranking of the discography is, in last place, I have New Wave, shock. In number 6, I have As the Eternal Cowboy. Number 5, I have Searching for a Former Clarity. 4, I have Axl Rose. 3, I have White Crosses. 2, I have Shapeshift with Me. And 1 is Transgender Dysphoria Blues.
Very good.
Lovely, amazing.
I was about to say August, but he's not here. Morgan.
Morgan.
Right. At number 10 on the top 10 songs, we have 8 Full Hours of Sleep. At number 9, we have 2 Coffins. At 8, we have Cliche Guevara. Number 7, Baby I'm an Anarchist. 6, Ache With Me. 5, Thrash Unreal. 4, Paralytic States. 3, Bamboo Bones. 2, Fuck My Life 666. And 1, Born on the FM Waves of the Heart. And the album ranking, number 7, New Wave. Searching for a Former Clarity. As the Eternal Cowboy. Shape Shift With Me. Reinventing Axl Rose. White Crosses. And then at number 1, Transgender Dysphoria Blues.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Right. So you asked me to give you a ranked top 10 songs. I've given you an unranked top 15 because fuck you.
Yeah.
In the spirit of being punk.
Yeah. So no particular order. We've got Pretty Girls, The Mover, Baby I'm an Anarchist, We Laugh at Danger and Break All the Rules, 8 Full Hours of Sleep, Cliche Guevara, Pints Are Gonna Sweet You Strong, Joy, Sink Florida Sink, Black Me Out, True Trans Soul Rebel, Bamboo Bones, The Ocean, Norse Truth, We Did It for Dan, which we did it all for Don, sorry, which you can find on the acoustic EP, and The Disco Before the Breakdown, which you can find on the EP that is called that. And yeah, my album rankings are at number 7, New Wave, number 6, Eternal Cowboy, number 5, White Crosses, number 4, Axl Rose, number 3, Shapeshift With Me, number 2, Searching for Former Clarity, number 1, Transgender Dysphoria Blues.
It's a good list.
Thank you.
My top 10 songs, counting down, 10 is Cliche Guevara, 9 is Turn Those Clapping Hands into Angry Balled Fists, 8 is Ache With Me, 7 is Justin, 6 is 2 Coffins, 5 is Searching for a Former Clarity, 4 is We Laugh at Danger and Break All the Rules, 3 is Violence, 2 is True Trans Soul Rebel, of course, and 1 is, of course, Transgender Dysphoria Blues. Those first 2 tracks will always be my 2 favorite songs by this band, I think. And my album ranking, number 7 is, of course, New Wave. Number 6 is White Crosses. Number 5 is Shape Shift With Me. Number 4 is As the Eternal Cowboy. Number 3 is Reinventing Axl Rose. Number 2 is Transgender Dysphoria Blues. And my favorite album by them is, of course, Searching for a Former Clarity by Jimmy Eat World.
Oh my god. Like the album.
I get Tyler a shirt that says that.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Right.
Just gonna say,
God, we
like
did
the
it.
song.
We did.
we did
We used
it.
to have that kid from The Simpsons who's doing the ha ha. Like, that's how I imagine that.
Yeah, I get it. Right. Any closing thoughts, lads?
Good band.
The band, they make music good.
Yeah.
I really like it when they sing the song about being gay and sad.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, I like that shit too.
That old
I
one, that old chestnut.
I
Deep
could
cut.
I could have said it better myself, but I don't need to.
Nope. Which I think technically means that you couldn't have.
Right. I think
No,
August has
that's
sent us
not.
an
No,
I think August has sent us an outro we can play.
He has. And I will be placing that right here for you all to see.
Rock on London.
Didn't even say it right.
Rock over London, rock on Chicago.
McDonald's.
Brand.
Rock and roll McDonald's.
And Tea against me. Their best song, Chinese Satellite. That's the episode. And as always, loyal viewers, rock over London, rock on Chicago, Smokey the Bear,
Only you can prevent wildfires.